Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I am your host, Dr. Jefferson, and this is a station where we talk about accountability factors and issues that affect the Black and Brown community in America and abroad. I, I had to give myself like a full on day to really sit with this because for so many reasons it personally resonated with me. Um, and I think that in bringing these issues to the forefront for people to talk about, see, take accountability for, move into a place of understanding of, and things like that, it sometimes is it's really difficult. Um, there are sometimes miscommunications when it comes to us um, having an understanding of substance use and the way that it affects our community of people. There are so many things that we normalize now that I think leads to the detriment of our understandings and our behaviors as Black and Brown people in our community. On yesterday, um, Keisha Cole's birth mother, Frankie, lost her life at age 61 on her birthday as a result of a drug overdose. That's a lot. That is, that's a lot. Within a month, we have been a nation of people that had to sit through multiple, hey, Miss Sandy, how are you? Multiple people losing their lives to drug overdoses, drug related deaths. And most of these people, we don't even know these things are happening. The fact that we don't know that it's happening and we don't know and we don't understand that it's happening in the numbers that it's happening in is what's concerning to me. The way that we respond to these things is what's concerning to me. The way that we don't see the leading issues as to how these cycles of behaviors are perpetuated in our community, it's beyond me. It really is. Hey, Beverly, how are you? I want to know how many of you are aware of the data around drug related suicide. And I don't know, what about therapy? Are you guys aware of therapy and how that can be helpful? My phone will continue to go off through the entire live. Just gotta silence it. Substance abuse is a popular thing in America. Okay. Um, awesome, Beverly. It's a popular thing in America. It's a popular thing pretty much everywhere. Yeah, it's been pretty big since the 1940s, actually, because you got a lot of different types of drugs that was being introduced to the scene, and then compounding one drug with another drug. And we don't even consider alcohol to be a drug, so let me make sure I make that very clear. That's also a substance. Illicit substances are substances that alter the mental status of a human being. When you alter the mental status of a human being, they see life different, they typically behave differently, and their motor functions also behave differently, like physically, mentally, all of that. And when we look at what life looks like and when we look at the way that we refuse to cope with life, when we look at the realities around it, like what do we see in our culture that continues to perpetuate this cycle of avoidance and dealing with the issues that are on the surface? Because if we don't find one way to avoid, we find another way to avoid it. And that's what's interesting to me with all of it. So Miss Sandy said, do you think it's the government's fault? No. Mm-mm. I think that if you allow or if you disallow something, people are still going to find means to do the things that they do. And people are still going to find means to numb their pain instead of deal with their pain if that's what their preference is, or if that's what they've been taught it's okay. Um, how many people do you think in our community advocate for THC and CBD or even alcohol to deal with your trauma, your distress. Let's talk about some of the realities. And this is really heavy. It really is because reaching age 60, pushes people into late stage development where they start to look at life and they start to either feel very proud about things or very distraught about things. And as a result of feeling distraught about things, they typically find themselves seriously depressed or, even far on the opposite end, very goal oriented and almost manic in a sense because they feel like they got to be doing something. They got to do something to replace that void, the things that didn't happen in life like the way they were supposed to happen because they had a plan at some point in their life, and that plan never unveiled what it is that they needed, and people typically start doing some of everything, right? it's just it's just so much of it, right? So the suicide, I talked about suicide in one of these videos a couple of days ago, but the national suicide rate rose tremendously after having experienced somewhat of a significant drop in the last 10 years between 2009 and 2019. But when we looked at the suicide numbers from 2021, right, or should I say really from 2019, the end of 2019, October, all the way up to now, this is almost a 15% increase. That's just other means to committing suicide. If we add the number of deaths that are related to opiate overdose and other drug, and because that's really what's affecting us in the Black and brown community, it's always an opiate overdose. Um, and typically those same people have, ETOH or alcohol in their system as well. And many of those people have marijuana in their system as well. It's astounding to me. If we add that, that's like another 22% of death. Okay, that's more deaths than the deaths in our community from COVID. In the last year, 75,000 people of us. It's That's really interesting to me. Really interesting to me. You said everything from coffee to the food we eat that's raised from farms has drugs in it. How can you say the government doesn't play a role in all of this? Because the okay, so if we look at what happens is when you die, right? An autopsy is performed as a result of your death. We look at everything that is in your bloodstream. We look at the viability of all the components of your body. We look at the process of your system breaking down before it's done. We go back and we trace the pathology. Okay, as a medical doctor, I was an infectious disease pathologist. That's the same way we trace disease. We can trace death. So if you've been living your life, right, and you've been having all of these toxins, right? Toxins and substances that alter mental states are two different things. So let's talk about some of the toxins that are in the food. If we talked about fertilizers and things like that, these things would be in your body, and over time, what happens, you build a tolerance to it because it's going to stay at a constant level. Why is it going to stay at a constant level? Because it's in your food and you eat on a schedule. So if we move and we shift the conversation to illicit substances, right? Unlike your food, unlike those toxins, now we're upping the game. We're doing a one up. And those illicit substances have a huge role to play when it comes to breaking down your vital organs. When you talk about damage done to your body, there are some things that pass through your liver and your kidney and it are expelled as waste because that's what they are. It's waste. It doesn't affect the functionality of your vital organs. Your vital organs are the things that you need to continue to live life, whether you do it healthily or not. So illicit substances directly have a direct impact on those said vital organs: liver and kidney functioning, your brain, which is your centralized processor, and your CNS, your centralized nervous system. So your heart as well. So let's look at this for what it is. Just for what it is. That's it. And we're not even going to talk about the damage done to your pulmonary glands, your lungs. So common sense. And this is one of the reasons that I really feel, that's why I said this conversation needs to be had. I need to see what lies in the mind of a black person when you think about what you're doing to yourself, what you're doing to yourself, what you elect to do to yourself. So when a conversation around illicit substances and the way it affects your body and your brain, when you see clearly 75,000 people are dying, 75,000 deaths, you see that clearly in a year, right? We want to make it about our food. There is something wrong with that. There is something wrong with that thought process, because what it's saying is that what I see, I refuse to believe. So you can see a thing and sometimes you don't even make it your truth because it's like, you know what, that shit don't apply to me. It can't apply to me. It's got to apply to somebody else other than me. So therefore we're going to perpetuate the cycle by maintaining these same levels of energy when it comes to us engaging in these types of behaviors that lead to these sad deaths. And we're going to continue to repeat the cycle. Hey, Trey, how are you? I can stay clean. That's exactly probably what Keisha Cole's mother was thinking. It's my birthday. DMX didn't just die from this. We didn't just see this. Hell no. Couldn't have been. I'm going to go ahead and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to celebrate because this is partying, and partying equates to healthy behavior because I'm going to feel happy in this moment because you only live once. Literally, you only live once. She literally died. The mindset that you only live once, and right now is the moment for us to live life to its fullest and use illicit substances, because we're putting on other things in our body that are damaging to our body. Let's put things in our body that's damaging to our vital organs. Is that the mindset of black people? Is that what you think? It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. Potentially. Potentially. So the question that I have for you is this: life is not unending. You could be ending today, tomorrow, based on the things that you accept as normal, as good, as beneficial to your outcome. Help me to understand, what does it take for a community of black people who is so fixated on the use of illicit substances to move themselves in a position to understand the way the human body works and to understand accountability and how that applies to stepping into a position of where you are. Let me so. So, if the government had no hand involved in this, according to you, why did OxyContin pursue maker Purdue agree to an $8 million settlement for causing opiate crisis in America? Because some people, let me make this really clear. Some people take accountability. So the thing is, if another person is willing to take accountability, where you should be taking responsibility for how you use the drugs, right? So if hold on, hold on. So let's do this. If you let's do this because I think that this is a necessary conversation. So because a person takes accountability in the role that they play in a particular habit forming behavior, where another person must take their accountability in. in engaging in the said behavior, and then also take responsibility for overusing these substances. Using substances as a means to an end of healing is one thing, but using substances for recreational purposes is another thing. So just because the water is there, a fucking starving and suicidal horse doesn't have to drink it. And matter of fact, he won't. You ever heard the term you can lead to the horse to water, but you can't make him drink? It's just like black people. You can lead them, you can put the knowledge in front of them, but you can't make them soak it up. You can't make them adapt better or more beneficial outcomes or behaviors because you're so concerned with finding excuses instead of moving into a place of accountability and responsibility for your actions. It makes more sense to deflect. So if I allow a thing, let's go to, why does the government allow alcohol sales, knowing the same reason they allow the sale of cannabis now legally in some places? Doesn't matter how much you outlaw a substance, people are still going to do what they want to do. When you tell them they can't do it, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to find a way to do it. They're going to make, then they're breaking the law, and then they're actually suppressing more of the availability of funds of the government, because then you got to put more money that's not there into prisons because, excuse me, these things are outlawed. So the allowance of a thing doesn't mean that people have to engage in a thing. So what drug dealers take accountability? Which ones? Because I've only seen one in my lifetime, and that's the one that I showed you guys, Johnny Curry, because he wanted to make it clear to the black community that he's the one that brought drugs into the black community and the government did. He's the only one. So here is the thing. This this woman, because Frankie was larger than the things that she indulged in. She was larger than her drug use. She was larger than her sexual promiscuity that comes as a part of substance abuse culture and substance use culture. She was larger than her series of baby daddies. She was larger than her struggles that she had with her children as she was trying to find her children's fathers. Definitely this woman had a lot of things going on that a lot of people didn't see. What I appreciate is that at least life yielded something for her in her path as far as personal resonance. It's hard because at the end of the day, I just there are so many thoughts around that. I cannot think of how it is that some of her daughters are going to be able to move through this, move past this, considering some of the things that were still moving and happening in their life. Um, my heart goes out to that entire family because they've gone through significant trauma, significant trauma. And it's easy for us to sit on the outset and make excuses, excuse behaviors, continuing those negative cycles of behaviors that keep us broken as Black people. And that is shameful. It is. So I encourage Black people to move into a space of accountability and responsibility for your actions. Stop blaming the white man that doesn't exist. Stop blaming the government and that doesn't exist in the nature of how you conduct yourself. Start having a higher level of respectability politics for yourself, a higher level of accountability for yourself. Drugs have been around since people have been around. You decide to do what it is that you engage in. I can guarantee you that Frankie had no intentions of dying as a result of her using those drugs that day. She was celebrating her birthday, living her best life, and thought maybe, just maybe, This little bit won't hurt, because that's just the culture, and that's the mindset. When you become addicted to a thing, you tell yourself whatever it is you need to tell yourself in order for you to maintain those behaviors, regardless of how negative the outcomes could be. Death is an outcome, and it could have been many times, but it wasn't for her. So obviously, she was thinking just like you, Miss Sandy. What she was thinking is, you know, I have access to it, right? I put other things in my body that harms my body. She wasn't thinking along the lines of, these are things that will harm my vital organs. The word vital means life, longevity and life. That's what it means. So before you guys engage in using these various substances, and you put out there the idea, there is nothing that says that this is bad for me. Ask yourself, well, have people had enough time to study this, to give me reliable studies on this, reliable stats of how it affects people? Am I going to be one of the guinea pigs that are become a statistic? Am I going to be one of the people who figure out that, okay, yeah, this is the type of behavior I'm going to engage in, and as a result, if I die, I'll be the person that can say that you could definitely die from this? Am I going to be the person to be the risk taker? Because it's interesting to me how Black people can make all of these assumptions and come up with all these fancy theories around why it is they don't want to take a vaccination, right? Hey, Kimbo, how are you? I'm glad you did. It's interesting that we can do these types of things, but we can't come up with theories as to how we could die from using drugs before we, you know, try those out. It's we can't do that around drug use. Like we can say, well, you know what, it's legal for somebody. Doesn't matter if somebody else's name is on the prescription bottle. Doesn't matter if I got this drug from a corner drug dealer. Doesn't matter if, this prescription isn't for me. It doesn't matter if I'm not taking this medication as prescribed from a doctor. It doesn't matter if any of these factors are here, because it's my body, and I can put these substances in my body in, extreme amounts. However, whatever amount that makes me feel good, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to feel good. So I'm going to use this substance that's legal just because it's legal for another purpose other than what it was meant, and it's going to be okay because it's the government's fault because they made it legal. What is wrong? Black people, help me help you, help us. The lack of accountability has to stop. At some point, somebody has to put on their common sense that's still not common to us because we're Black and brown people, and say that we are the originators of elevation. We are what make everything great, especially when it comes to women. And you have to ask yourself why Black men don't value you. They don't value you because of conversations like this. When your mindset moves into a place like this, how can a man give you anything to cultivate and multiply when you can't even multiply your understanding of the things that are the detriment of a nation of people? I hate to say it, but the level of delusion that we have as a Black and brown community is real. It wasn't enough to see Earl lose his life. DMX's death wasn't enough. Whitney Houston wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Obviously, Frankie's loss, that isn't enough either. Like the gun violence, all of these things that we perpetuate the cycles of, that we engulf ourselves in, and we become a part of because they help to define us. All of these things that we can see are leading to the detriment of us. We have to make it something else. We have to call it something else. We have to dress it up. We got to sugarcoat it. so we can stay in those negative cycles of behaviors. And we're really not seeing that. Black people need therapy. And for the first time, I'm going to say that Black people need therapy from non Black people, because you need to see the way the non Black people can see you. Pathology. That's it. The pathology of us. That's it. Somebody needs to study us from the outside looking in and analyze what they see from the outside looking in when they don't identify with us, in order for us to become, I don't know, more aware. I don't know. I don't know. But then again, when I look at it, that's probably not a viable solution either. Because what would we say then? We'll say they're being racist, because that's our favorite thing. Great punchline. Make it, force a Black person into accountability, and they're going to place the race card right there in front of you. There is nothing. Nothing sits through. Nothing. We're going to unseat it every time. Reality is something that Black people refuse to accept for what it is. I just need to know why. I just need to know why. You see the pain that is going, these people are going through. You see the pain that is tearing and ripping through the core, the fabric of our being. You see that we are becoming eradicated, not because of the government, not because of an invisible white person, not because of another race of people not liking us. It is because of us. And we refuse to look at it. If it's not substance use, these are things that we're electing to do to eradicate us. If it's not substance abuse, if it's not overdose due to substance abuse, if it's not suicide by other means or substance abuse, if it's not abortion, if it's not other types of abortion, if it's not violence, it is us who is killing us. Make it make sense, you guys. I just don't, I don't understand it. I don't understand. And we refuse to take accountability. So when Miss Sandy asked me, is it the government's fault? It's the government's fault, because it's not, they're not locking our asses up. You're right. They're not protecting us from ourselves. You're right. Because somebody else needs to be accountable. Somebody else needs to be responsible for us. Because we're not whole adults. We're not. When you talk about the fact that, this is what I want you guys to understand, because obviously there is a disconnect in the human brain. Maybe the hippocampus isn't functioning at full capacity. Like, Black people, the amount of abortions that we get, us, that we get, Black and brown people, is above and beyond the amount of people that were lynched, that were Black and lynched during slavery, post slavery. And combined with, combined with the number of people that were killed in the Civil War, that were us. That's the reality. That's in 2 years. That's in 2 years. Help me. Help me help you help us. Why are we? Why are we the people who have to kill themselves in insurmountable numbers? Just because a thing, why are we people who have a zero accountability, a lack of accountability, and a lack of self-control? When a thing is made legal, does that mean that you have to do that thing? Like, I just don't, that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. So what you're saying is that nobody taught you how to make good choices. Nobody taught you how to make good choices. So the government is responsible for parenting you, not your parents. That's what you're telling me. That's what I'm hearing you say when you make excuses and you say that the government's approving this or approving that. Nobody's force feeding it to you, right? when you talk about the food options that you have, when you talk about the education system being against you. These are things that I don't understand with the Black community. You have the ability to go out and create your own education system, because guess what the government also does? They allow you to homeschool your kids. They do. And this is a government that even gives you assistance. So you will homeschool your kids and you can be on assistance. They're going to pay for you to have somewhere to stay and everything. They're going to pay for your bills and everything. And they're going to give you some type of other assistance too. With all of these assistance programs in America, you have other people from other countries coming and taking advantage of them. And Black people will take advantage of the system. They will get on Section 8. They will get on food stamps. They will get on, what is that other one? The TANF. They will get on all of these programs, right? Black people will get on all these programs, and you guys will take advantage of these programs so you can go and buy you a BMW that's old as hell and put it outside. That's eventually going to be junk. You will get on them programs so you can save your money and trap your money to multiply your money on the corner to go get these J's, these purses, these bags. You'll go and jack people. These are the mindsets of us. Make it make sense for me. It seems like everything that the Black community okays or we normalize are things that lead to the detriment of us. We don't normalize the things that lead to the elevation of us. We don't see or look for the exceptions in these things that we say are excuses. We don't look for the exceptions in these things that we say hinder or hold us down. We don't look for the exceptions in the things that we say are roadblocks to success in the Black community, because all of these things can help us. If we look at roadblocks, right? Roadblocks will not go along forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. At some point, there will be grass on the end. At some point, there will be sand on the end. So every roadblock gives you a possibility to go around it, if that's what you're looking for. But if the only thing that you're looking for is what impedes your progress, that's exactly what you're going to step into. That's exactly what you're going to see, because that's what matters to you, because that gives you an excuse to not step into accountability. That gives you an excuse to not take responsibility. That gives you an excuse to not be a responsible person or a productive citizen of America. That gives you an excuse to not do better, because you know that somebody did tell you, when you know better, you do better. So to accept that thing means now you know that thing, right? So you have to apply different principles of life. So I think that maybe that's the underlying issue. So now let's get to some of these comments over here. Let's look at you guys' comments. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Let's see. The drug dealers who get caught and pled guilty and serve their time. I didn't see an employee from Purdue going to jail. You said the drug dealers that get caught. You realize that if you get caught, there is no accountability there, right? You know that accountability isn't a forced concept, right? You do realize that, right? So what that says is, because there was a lack of accountability. Okay. Because there is a lack of accountability, right? Because y'all got to make this make sense. We're going to bring this thing in today. We're going to take this thing to church today, okay? Because this drug dealer got to jail because he already got caught and they already have all of the evidence that they need to convict him, right? And he strikes a deal to get lesser time than what he would have gotten if he'd gone to court, right? We're going to call that accountability, not responsibility, right? Not the fact that my back's against the wall because I can see that you clearly got my ass, right? We're not accountability, ma'am, is when that said drug dealer in this scenario goes to the police, right? And says, "Hello, Mr. Policeman, I'd like to make a confession. I'd like to confess to a crime. Can you set me up in an interview room with the detective? I have some information." Said Keisha had cut her off because of her addiction. She will move on just fine. Keisha isn't the person that I'm concerned about. So obviously you haven't done enough research on Frankie. So I did one conversation, I believe, on my, may have been on my personal, one of my personal Facebook page, because I have several Facebook pages. But I did one on there and I featured Frankie and her other daughter, another one of her daughters. God, what's her name? I can't remember. She's the brown skinned girl, and she was on paternity court because they know the judge. They have a person, Frankie has a personal relationship with the judge. But she went on paternity court with the judge in order for her to try and find this young lady's father, because she had previously thought that one of the other guys, because that's why I ask people, if they really understand substance use culture, right? Because obviously this is what I do for a living. I have to do the research, right? I have to know what the culture looks like. I have to be curious. I have to ask my clients when they're coming out of that, what that looks like, what it looks like for them coming out of it, if they believe that they can overcome it, all of these good things. These are conversations that are required for me to have. But I encourage other people to have those conversations and to be curious before they engage in these types of culture and behaviors, because I need you to understand what you're getting yourself into before you do it. Now, I'm encouraging you to do it, and you're not my children. You're not my family, right? So I shouldn't care. It shouldn't be none of my business. But I do care because I'm passionate about people after seeing the difficulty that I see people in our community struggling with. Okay. I am a person, I've lost family members to substance related accidents, substance related suicides, substance related homicides, gun violence, you name it. Over the course of these conversations, I believe I have talked about, one of my younger cousins, couple of distance away, and he was 21 and he lost his life to substance use. Very similar to her, but not quite as long lived, of course, right? And he had a newborn baby. His death was ruled as a suicide because he took something that he didn't know what it was, but he knew it was getting him high, right? Came home from work, newborn baby in the house, girlfriend in the house, his other kid in the house. They're all in the house together, right? After he had partied and he felt good at whatever pills he had, he decided to take this other pill. And he asked her about it. And she was just like, "Well, no, I don't know what that is, so I don't want to take it." Took it anyway. When she came back from the store, he was unresponsive. Under an hour. Children in the home. All of that. This is our culture. This is us. So just because it's not at your front door today doesn't mean it won't be tomorrow. You determine what that tomorrow looks like based off of what you do. You determine whether or not you're comfortable after these things happening to you based off of what you've elected to engage in when it comes to education and insight and those conversations. Like, I had those conversations. I have children that was the same age as him. So there were several conversations that I had with him because I wanted to know, like, why are you so curious about you guys trying everything? Why you got to try everything? Because I'm an anti-substance use person, right? So coming from me, now, oh, you old, you just lame, you know what I mean? All of that. But I'm curious about what drives your curiosity at your young age that makes you do the things that you do in the amounts that you do these things in, you engage in. So it's interesting to me. Let's see. But they were on the show and she still didn't find the girl's dad. I think she's tested maybe like 5 or 6 different guys. And none of the guys, she brought 2 guys to court that day, and they weren't the daddy either. Oh, that's your conversation with her. But yeah, I do feel like people do think that the government is forcing them to engage in the behaviors. So let's look. Let's say you have $1 billion machine and you can stick your head in it and it magically does your hair in 10 seconds, no matter how what hairstyle you choose, but it causes cancer. Would you sell it? Of course, because it's elective. And to be honest with you, black women have used relaxers for years. I'm not one of them. I just never had to because I don't have that type of hair. But black women have used relaxers for years. And for years after the research was out that said ammonia and PPD mixed together causes cancer, they still kept using it. Same thing about baby powder. Same thing about these feminine products that black women, especially young black women, continue to want to put in their feminine areas. You know that these things cause off balance pH levels. You know that these things can lead to disease and infection. You know that these things can increase your rate of infection and your propensity for catching HPV and HIV, but you still continue to do it. It's because it's there. Like I just don't. Oh, I don't understand it. Kenbo, why do you think that is? Why do you think that black people glorify low lifestyles versus elevated, expansive, and beneficial outcomes in life? Those propensities. Because I mean, there are many more successful people in the black community that we can look to and we can say these are goals in life, right? That aren't substance users. But we won't glorify them. Oh God, I agree. And Sandy, ma'am, I'm sure you have a microwave and cell phone. They both cause cancer. You bought them both. True. What's going on, Casey? What's going on? And you guys, I'm just going through the comments. So if I haven't displayed your comment yet, just know I haven't gotten to it. Give me a chance to kind of cycle through. You know what? I like the fact that Trey brought up this point. So I want to talk about this. So do you know, before I talk about it, I want to know who knows where the term shrink comes from? Who knows where that comes from? And are you a person who doesn't believe in therapy? So let's talk about that. Substance that the government gave to us. Trey, I can't. I just can't. Right. Is it K de jour? Did I get that right? Thank you. The government apparently gave her life to. Oh God. And I agree. It does all start at home. And there some level has to be some level of accountability. Have you noticed where most of all the Planned Parenthood are placed? Let's talk about that. Like, so do you notice that most of the Planned Parenthood are placed in black and brown communities and near access of black and brown communities? And do you know why? Do you know why? Does anybody own a business here? Let me ask that question. Does anybody own a business? Does anybody, if you don't own a business, do you work for a Fortune 500 company, marketing, management, and that kind of stuff in marketing? Like, or do you guys have a basic understanding of supply and demand? That's an even better question because supply and demand is the answer to that question. Said they made abortions for blacks. Guess it's not working since we produce kids out of wedlock daily. Oh no, no. But it is. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like the numbers of abortions that black people have had in the last 2 years, oh, they supersede the number of black people hanged during slavery altogether. In every fucking territory there was a slave, right? Also, if we added that number to the number of black American people who were slaves or were free men that fought in the Civil War, it also over out, supersedes that number as well, even added with the two. You can't make this stuff up. You can't. But those are the statistics that we don't talk about, because I think that we're so caught up in the fact of, oh well, black women are going to get married at a rate of 1 in 4. Who gives a damn who's getting married? It doesn't matter if a black woman is getting married at the end of the day if we're not procreating appropriately, if we're not training the children that we already have in this world, including self, to do things that are based on positive outcomes. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. None of that matters, because eventually we will be eradicated. I don't know how many of you, like, how many of you recognize how many black people are suffering from psychotic symptoms, hearing voices and thinking that they're Jesus and calling themselves Jesus and going through extreme manic episodes, bouts of schizophrenia. Like, these are things that are going on in our community more so than any other community, because we are introducing ourselves to drugs that we say are not harmful for us, but we know that these are drugs that cause psychotic features. But we consider those psychotic features to be feeling good, taking us away from our reality. That's what altered mental states are, literally. So you can have the facts, but you guys refuse to look at the facts because you want to look at these other assumptions, and you want to navigate and move yourself away into this place where you can make excuses and come up with all these conspiracy theories. That's what works. That's what works. Make it make sense for me. But the interesting thing, we talk about, no, Miss Sandy is not a troll. Like, literally, I think that this is the mindset. I think that you finally get to see the mindset of what the vast majority of the young black people, these Gen Zers, have. Like, Gen X and Gen Z, this is what they think. Bill Gates' mom is one of the founders of Parenthood. Her goal is to create genocide of black children. Sweetheart, that let's bring this in. Let's bring this in. I want you to come real close, okay? I want you. You know what? Let me drop this link real quick, because I swear I was gonna go get my nails done today and get me a good foot rub today. But you know what? Let's sit here for a minute. Let's have this conversation. Because here you go. Let me drop the link. Come on, let's have this conversation, because I feel like somebody needs to mother our community. Somebody needs to have this conversation. Somebody needs to take y'all to church, because nobody ever went to church. Maybe that's what it is. Nobody went to church, so nobody had that higher power of accountability that was conditioned and forced upon them by their grandmother, because their grandmother believed in having productive citizens of black people, because your grandmother had a specific reason, your grandfather had a specific reason that they wanted you guys to become something, because it meant something for them. And I think that when they missed the mark, all everything went to hell. The black community went to hell, and we never came back. Make it make sense for me. Make it make sense for me. So let me talk about this. Planned Parenthood cannot create a genocide unless somebody's spraying that shit in the air. Do you understand? To make a thing available to a person is one thing, but for a person to partake in that said thing, it's another thing. So I can take accountability for making it available for people to go out and fucking kill themselves by giving them the means and talking about the different ways that are effective means to suicide. Am I killing those people? Or am I only just educating them on the things that I found to be most effective amongst people who have completed suicide successfully? Education can be elevation, or it can lead to the detriment of you, because you don't want to take it and grow from it and move into a different place, expand on it and move into a different place. Seat yourself in greatness instead of seating yourself in this failure, this sense of avoidance. I just don't understand. I agree. I agree. You know, here's the thing. Just because I place something in your community and I tell you that you can partake in it, has anybody ever had a really smart kid ever shock the hell out of them? And you tried to give them some alcohol or something like that, and then that kid was like, "No, because that's for adult people." Let me tell you, I do it all the time. I do it all the time. I do it to my kids at different stages of their development because I want to know how much is sinking in. I want to know how intelligent my children are. Okay, I have a 6 year old child, a 6 year old child, and he has adult siblings. Okay, a lot of them. So I'm thinking to myself, like, I take parenting very seriously. I do a lot. I homeschool my kids, all of these things. They have probably more knowledge than a 45-year-old American male or female with a college degree. That's reality. So my 6 year old, right? I'll have a bottle of what is it? The wine mixers that you're gonna make the sangria with, right? Now, the wine mixers that you make a sangria with is still, I think, like 5 or 6% alcohol, maybe 4%. But whatever it is, the bottle looks a certain way, right? So the bottle looks just like wine looks. Now, this child who I am, he's one of my kids, so you're always a constant study for me. This child is here and seated in mommy's offering me some juice. Do you want some juice? Right? That's what I said. You want some juice? And then he says to me, yeah, I want some juice, mommy. Okay. Well, I'm going to pour you some out of this cup. You got to mute the show, right? So when I pour that juice into his cup, do you think my 6 year old is going to drink it? If my 6 year old is more intelligent than you as a grown person, there is a problem. There is a problem because the 6 year old knows that it's made available for him. Not only is it made available, it's right in front of him, and he's not going to take it. What does it say about a grown person when all of these things are grown people's accountability and responsibility things? Because here's the first part. In order for you to even be exposed to Planned Parenthood as an option, you got to be having sex. You got
Ding.
to.
You're right. I put down in the comment section, I said condoms and birth control are available too. Are they forcing these black people to take it? Since you want to say they forcing them to do the abortions. This is why I say women are stupid. No, no, respectfully, no offense taken, but that's what because you always get the same stuff. It's always somebody else's fault.
So I want to. Kimbo is right. Kimbo says that people aren't angry, and I think that that's a lot of what the issue is. Like I've been sitting with a large amount of very successful black and brown people in this melanated community in America, and all of us are high aren't how not high earning and that's it, but high earning and high contributors to our community. And so when we sit and we look at some of the things that we get from these people when we're doing the work that we do in the community, and we're not out here doing no 501Cs, you understand what I'm saying? This is just extra work that we put into young people, extra energy that we're pouring into young people in these black and brown communities. And it's not about them not having the means. It never is.
Oh,
Because
oh,
I've told you guys several times, these women are on assistance, men are on assistance, but they have plenty of money in the bank. So it's not
um, can,
about access.
can I
Men
address?
don't receive government assistance.
I want to. Yes, they do.
Hold
They
on,
don't
I'm
receive it as much, but I want to address urban therapists. Urban therapists. Money, being a billionaire is available to you. Are you forced to become a billionaire, sir? Because if so, we behind like a motherfucker in the world.
says you're not marketing liquid liquor to your kids. The harmful stuff the government allows is being marketed, and you can influence people via marketing, but you can't. So let me make this clear. I'm a person who has never, ever consumed any illicit substance in my life, ever, ever.
You sure
I
they
have
didn't force you?
I have
You sure
quite a
they
few
didn't force you to
decades.
taste it? Are
I
you
have
sure they didn't?
Yeah,
They
they
didn't force
forced
you to
her.
take
Yeah,
any
they
drugs
forced her,
through
man.
your life.
Yep,
no.
they sure did. They forced her.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Even when I came and I went through officer's basic course through the military, and they talked about which drugs they would be in certain as far as vaccinations and things like that. Guess what? These all these lengthy forms that various people don't read, that's your choice. They're letting you know these are things that are a requirement of the position. Do you have any issues with that?
My first encounter with prescription drugs came through the military in the form of Tylenol 3.
They didn't force you to take it.
No, they didn't, but they made it. Yes, they no, they didn't, but it was they had it there for injuries. It was for legit injuries. If you had
I've
injuries,
had
they prescribed it.
I've had morphine. I've had morphine made available. I still do now because I have chronic pain because I was a prisoner of war 4 times. So I still have internal injuries as a result of the things that I suffered from being tortured for 4 months on end. That's just from one. So what's interesting to me is that people will say, "Oh, well, I got this available and that's available. That was made available. That was made available." I can have as many drugs as I want to in my system at any given time, and I've never taken any of them. I believe in holistic wellness because that's what my belief system drives me to do. So the question is, what is your belief system? How can anybody manipulate you into doing anything that you're not already interested in? Because manipulation only pushes people to do the things that they have a desire to do, but they're unsure
Yep.
as to what the outcomes will be. So they need additional validation to step into that place and do that thing.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, I see where you're getting at. You're right.
It's
You do have
temptation,
the
just like the devil.
Yeah.
well. Let me interject real quick, guys. Like, yeah, it is your choice to do the right thing and be, procreate. And I'm gonna use this analogy with
Wait, don't say
surgery.
the right thing though. Don't say the right thing. Just say it's about because it's not about right or wrong. It's about what's conducive and what's not conducive. See, that's what I want black people. I don't want them to hear this and think that there has to be an innate right or wrong. I want them to think about outcomes because I think
Well, you
that that's
guys,
the
you guys
problem.
are talking about accountability. So
Exactly. When it comes to
obviously,
accountability, it's about
obviously, it's the right thing to take accountability on the
mm-mm.
poor choices you make in life.
You're
You
talking
know what
about
I'm saying?
responsibility. Responsibility differs from accountability by way of it not being a universal law of right or wrong. So accountability only means that I'm being held accountable for what my actions are in this particular thing.
And they're
Whatever
making
the outcomes
irresponsible
are,
choices by
that's the
having
responsibility.
having kids out of wedlock.
But
But
that's the
but it's the
responsibility
thing I want to talk about though.
part. Hmm.
Um, like the system is set up for you to make bad choices. For example, a surgeon that that deals with women having babies, like each C-section is like I think like 10 grand or whatever. They get like a $10,000 bonus or something like that. And it's like, yo, if he's behind on his mortgage, he's not gonna do the most um he's not gonna do the moral right thing. He's gonna do what's gonna help him and his family out. And he's gonna try to figure out how many C sections can he get popping in one day. You know what I'm saying? So 4 C section is like 40 grand. Boom. That first that first set in 4 hours, he done caught up paying his mortgage. You know what I mean? Now if he got child support to pay a baby mama terrorist, shoot, he might reach for 8 C sections. You know what I mean? This is
So
what I'm saying, man. You
no,
got people like
I'm gonna make that clear because as a person who I've done C-sections, I've done vaginal births, deliveries. So your C-section only costs that much because you're paying a couple of different entities. When we bill out services as medical
yeah,
doctors,
but the system
they're getting
puts you
paid
in
the
the
same amount.
position to making an immoral choice.
It's not
Same
though.
thing
It's
with
not.
like
That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm
same
telling you.
thing
You
with
think
public
that
defendants.
no,
Public
you think
defendants
that the
employees.
person is getting paid more than they're getting paid. Just because it's costing you more doesn't mean the physician is getting paid more. The physician gets
Yep.
paid the same amount. You're paying more because the hospital charges their fee, which is higher, because in order for you
But
to have a
y'all gotta cut.
cesarean
Y'all gotta cut
section,
off that, man. Y'all,
but they
y'all,
don't.
y'all make it bread.
No, we don't. A physician is paid the same regardless of what type of birth, whatever type of delivery it is.
So,
Their
Dr.
fee
Jefferson, you
one
said okay. Okay, you saying y'all already have a set fee when y'all meet with your patient and decide I'm going to be the one to deliver your baby. You don't get anything extra when you
don't
go.
get anything extra. Don't matter how they choose, they deliver their baby. The cost goes up because the facility cost is going to go up when it comes to you having a cesarean. Cesarean is a complex surgery, and we're using an operating room and utensils, tools to perform that surgery that are different than the ones that we're using when we're doing a vaginal birth. So you're in a different place. All right, it's a whole different room. You not only have your labor room and your recovery room, but you also have a surgical room that has to be prepared. So that's additional staff members. You're paying for additional 6 additional.
Anesthesia.
Yeah, wait, that's the anesthesiologist is sometimes a part of the process, even for vaginal birth. So they get paid the same rate too. It just depends
No,
on
I
what.
was just saying they use different anesthesia for a C-section than they do with the vaginal birth.
Not all the time. Sometimes we can use a local for a C-section as well. So it's based off of how the mom responds to the epidural being placed in, because not everybody's back is prepared for us to use the epidural, and we can use as much as we need to. We can make you completely numb to do the C-section with it, but some people have to be put all the way to sleep because we can't get it in because they're either having bulging discs or compressed discs, or they can't bend over the right way for us to make the insertion without causing significant vertebral damage. So these are things that we're thinking about when we make that decision to call in an anesthesiologist to use something different. But either way, those different charges are based on the operating room cost, because now you have another room to pay for. So it's like you being on a trip. You planned a trip, your trip advisor is still going to get paid their set fee. If you need additional accommodations while there, you can request those additional accommodations through whatever resort you're staying on, because you might need them. So maybe you need access to an additional handicap feature, or you need access to a private masseuse, right? Guess what? You're going to pay that private masseuse, but you're not going to pay your trip advisor more money. So it doesn't matter. When you talk about prescriptions, however, that's a whole nother conversation when it comes to MDs and that part. But when we're talking about fees for surgeries, and we're talking about whether or not these are viable or productive outcome type of decisions that people have to make, it doesn't matter what type of surgery you decide to deliver your baby, the risk is still going to be high. We have women hemorrhage every day from giving vaginal births and cesarean births, because there are certain things that happen as a woman's body transitions on the inside to give birth to a child that we cannot say will or won't affect blood clots. So that's just a part of the process. So when we talk about accountability and responsibility, when people have engaged in sex and they say, well, you know what, sex was made available to me, and then they say,
Yeah,
oh, we're
but
not
hold
ready
on.
to be parents.
Let me
Abortion
say this.
clinics are made available to
We
me.
can't ignore the fact that Margaret Sanger, with the whole Parenthood movement, wasn't racially motivated. You know what
It
I mean?
doesn't
But
matter.
it,
She was.
Rush, even if it
Yeah,
was, they did not make black
It
women
was.
go take
It,
the
it,
service.
it was.
Like Planned Parent, me seeing Planned Parenthood did not, and choices did not make me go out and start fucking just because I saw the building there.
exactly.
It's like the health department giving away free condoms didn't make me want to go get condoms. Everybody, every adult should know by now, you can go to your local health department and they will give you a bag full of condoms. You get about 100 of them. How many people actually take advantage of it?
Yo,
So,
listen. I'm
so
not.
Mr.
I'm not.
Buck,
I'm not saying. I'm not saying. Hold on. I'm not saying that they don't have a choice. They do have a choice, but it's just funny how Parenthood was racially motivated to, you know, conjure up genocide for the black children, and on top of that, there's a parenthood on every corner in the hood. I don't see Planned
Why?
Parenthood
It's not one
in the
in every
suburbs. You know what
hood.
I'm saying?
Memphis only has
So
like two.
obviously,
What's in this
obviously,
over here like too?
As big as Memphis is, it only has two Planned Parenthoods.
But why though? Let me explain that to you guys. Marketing is about supply and demand, right? And Mr. Brooks, we're gonna definitely address and dive into your comment, but there was another one up here. I think K de jour made. Yeah, this one. We're gonna dive into that one, and there's one more that I'm gonna really get into because I need you guys to come to the table for this one because at the point where we start to see more celebrities dying and it's forced on us and they're coming from our particular culture, subculture of people. When you tell me that you see that happening, but you can make excuses for as to how that's happening, and you can say,
hold on,
"Well,
hold on,
that'll
hold on,
never
hold on.
be
Let me
me."
say this real
That's
quick.
the problem for me.
Let me say this real quick. It's
Hmm.
not a coincidence that the music industry, Planned Parenthood, the prisons are all moving in one chord. Like a lot of these rappers, they own shares on private prisons, but yet they sending our black children into prison by the music that they
That's a
push
smart
and what they promote.
investment, sir. Sir,
So yeah,
sir,
I was gonna
Russ.
say
Okay,
marketing.
because I get tired of hearing the music pushing. What about movies? Are you not gonna say nothing about the message that these folks are doing in these movies where they shoot motherfuckers up and kidnapping them and beheading them and stuff? All these scary movies. Is that not an agenda to make psychos and shit?
But
Or
it's a
is the
part
government
of
trying to make more
listen,
Michael
man,
Myers?
you can deny all this, but
It's
our
not
culture,
denying. It's
Not
giving you
right.
a contrast.
let me finish real quick. Our culture promotes killing each other. Like we're the only race of
So
people
does
that
rock and
enjoy
roll.
killing our own people.
So does
And
rock and roll, and so do scary movies.
pushes that. The
So
music
wait,
industry the music industry pushes that.
but it doesn't.
So
The
you're
music
telling me
The
it's a
movie
coincidence
industry.
that
Wait, let me say
hold
this.
on. You're telling me it's a coincidence that music industries labels have shares of private prisons and they're promoting gang violence?
Yes, it's a
Come
good
on,
business
dog.
investment.
It's not a
Who did?
coincidence, man. Same thing with the Cardi B. What do they conjure up in our community?
But
Black
it
single
doesn't.
mothers.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
let me
With the
expand. Let me
family
explain. So
every hood.
black single mothers,
It's not a coincidence, man. These
that's
things go
already
hand
been
in
a thing
hand.
though. It's already been a thing. So black single mothers were a thing. Therefore, music indicated that it was a thing because it's a popular culture of American culture and it's accepted. Us killing us has already been a popular thing. So because it was a popular thing, the music shifted to highlighting these inadequacies in our community because these are things that we normalize and we accept. All of these things that you see in music are results of the culture already stepping into those places and having those societal norms become what they are. So music can only convey the message that culture has already taught them is a norm. That's all music does. It takes what the experience of the person are, whatever those experiences are, and it magnifies it because now they're using that as a scene as a method to express themselves. It's that's it. That's it. The news only
Maybe
highlights what's already been going on.
maybe you can't understand what I'm saying because
Oh no, I understand what you're saying.
you're not around those kind of aggressive environments, so you
I've
can't really,
listened to
you know what
those.
I mean?
I've listened to those verses. I don't necessarily approve of Cardi B's rhetoric. I don't necessarily approve of any of the music since Lil Kim, to be honest with you. But the idea is this is a culture that was already there. The music is indicative of the culture, not the culture indicative of the music.
And Rush, you've
That's
listened to rap just as much as me. You ain't went out and pulled
I
no
don't.
drive-bys or done
First of
no
all,
shit to get us put in jail.
the
So it goes
the
back to
the
it goes
artists
back
I
to
listen
per.
to does not promote gangs and violence.
Well,
You know what I
sir,
mean?
you're talking about
I grew
what
up
you're
listening.
talking about.
I grew up
Okay,
listening to
Rush.
Cannabis. Who else? KRS One. All these artists have different styles and different messages
So you've
that they
never
put
listened
out.
to any trap music. You've never listened to Gucci, Jeezy, Ti, none of that.
No,
You
I'm
didn't
from
listen
the
to
East Coast. No,
NWA
I
growing up.
wasn't
You
raised to
ain't
listen to that. I'm from the
So
old
you
school
weren't
era where
listening to Wu Tang and them.
we had
You weren't
ciphers,
listening to
we
Wu
was
Tang.
freestyling, we used witty words and rhymes to get our point across. That's the era I'm
Notorious
from.
Big
I'm
talked
not from.
about.
I'm not from. I'm
Do
not
you
from
listen to
Memphis where the
Notorious Big,
gangsters
right?
spread out.
Okay, but you listen to Notorious Big, right?
Of course.
Okay, Notorious Big talked about selling drugs and shooting niggas, raping hoes, raping kids, and he never
Nah,
influenced you to
nah.
want to do that.
That's his premise of his whole album is not that.
Dude, my point is, nigga, you've listened to rap just like me, and neither one of us decided to go out here and do the shit that rappers were talking about. So you have to stop saying that the music pushes this message on people unless you saying black people are dumb and they're easy manipulated.
That's what I'm
Listen,
saying.
man. Like I said, you do have a choice, and it's your responsibility to make the right choice.
But
But
that's what I'm saying. If you
if you're
don't
hold
have
on,
foundation, how
if
can you
you're
make the
being
right choice?
baited to do to influence you to choose to do the right thing, then yo, that's an issue. And
I've
y'all are
never
kind of
been
ignoring
baited
that,
by music or
man.
enter I've never been baited by music or entertainment to do anything in my life. And I've been watching TV just as long as you. We're around the same age. I'm 38. That shit has never influenced me to want to go out and do the shit the rappers were talking about. You have to be stupid to want to do this because niggas know it's entertainment.
So what do you think about the what do you call these things? The reality TV. Because reality TV
Oh,
is
that's even worse. Those reality TV shows is even worse. But go ahead,
And
Doc. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it's supposed to mimic reality though of the
yeah,
black community.
First of all,
exactly.
it's real reality. Them niggas get scripts and all
It
that.
is. So
So,
that's what I'm telling you.
let's not
That's
even
We
go there.
know this.
so that's what I'm telling you. Music is scripted the same way that reality TV is scripted because the reality in society has to happen first. After the reality in society happens in an abundance, it becomes accepted or not accepted. So if it's not accepted and we push it away and we label it as deviant and we avoid those types of behavior, we never move to the place where these things make music because guess what? We've already decided that these things are defiant and they're deviant ways of being. So as a society, we didn't
Let me
accept
say this,
that.
Doc. Let me
We
say
don't
this,
make the
Doc.
music.
If these um TV stars that's doing the reality shows and these rappers they pushing a certain agenda, right? They
Mhm.
have no type of influence towards the masses. Is that what you're telling me?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the influence on the masses is the repeated, perpetuated cycles of behaviors that were already there before the music. The music only normalizes further what's already there. It has to be there first. Nobody can make music. You cannot name me a single song that talked about the fucking future ever.
So she's saying gangster rap niggas were killing before gangster rap became invented. That's what she's
Right.
saying. Niggas were already doing drive-bys, selling crack, and doing all that
I
stuff before
I,
Easy
I,
E made his song.
I disagree. Let me tell you what I'm used to. No,
So
You
when
standing
was
on the corner straight
before
slaying your
when?
knot.
let me speak.
Hold
Oh,
up,
Don't get
Russ. When
emotional,
was
child.
rap created?
like where do
You're
you
getting
think that comes
emotional,
from?
child.
You
Let me
telling a
speak.
story.
When
Let
was
me
rap
speak, guys.
created, Russ? Oh,
Let me
before you speak, answer
let me
when
speak,
rap was
guys.
created. Just
Let
answer
me
when rap was
let me.
created.
I'm not. Listen. Let me speak, sir. You're getting too emotional. Relax.
When was rap created,
Listen.
sir? Since you
Can I
saying
speak?
niggas weren't
Can I
killing and
speak?
selling crack before rap. When did it
Can I
create? When
speak,
was rap
sir?
created? Yes, I
Can I
want you to
speak?
answer that question though. I want
I'm
you to
not
answer that
answering your
question.
question. Let me speak. Let me get to my point.
See,
Okay,
this
so
is what niggas
avoid.
do.
Be avoided. That's what I'm saying. Be
Let me
avoided then. That's fine. That's fine. We'll
let
be
me get to the
avoided.
point. You guys
Rap
heard of
was
Jim
created
Jones,
in the
right? You guys
1970s,
heard of
bro.
Jim
Rap
Jones,
was
right?
created in the 70s.
Listen,
Wait,
you guys heard of Jim
wait.
Jones, right? The rapper, right?
Jim Jones. I've never heard anything that Jim Jones.
Yes, ballin', we fly
Okay,
high.
okay,
Yeah, I know him.
okay. Jim Jones. Okay, cool. He is the number one reason why the East Coast is infested with gang activity because of him promoting his set from in the early 2000s. East Coast East Coast.
So it wasn't no gangs before
Hold
Jim
on.
Jones was born.
Let me finish. Gang
You
culture
saying some
doesn't
wild
come.
shit, son.
Let me explain to you. Gang
Okay,
culture does not derive from the East Coast. That it derives from the Midwest. It derives from the West
You know there
Coast.
was gang
It,
banging when
it
Tupac was born in New York, right?
what I'm trying to explain to you guys is that because of Jim Jones' influence, there's a high it grew the percentage of gang activity gang activity in the East Coast because of Jim.
Who put Jim Jones down? Because Jim Jones didn't create the set that he's with, so who put him down? See, that's why I say you saying a lot of shit that don't make sense. You trying to act
No,
like this
that's
nigga is
exactly.
responsible for
So
gangs.
you
Gangs
ask
already
any
existed,
you
bruh.
ask anybody from New York right now who
yeah, but
made who made gangs popular in New York, they're gonna tell you it was Jim Jones and the
They had to
Dipset.
be
They're
popular
gonna tell you that.
but for
They're
Jim
gonna
Jones
tell
to
you that,
even
and
get
it's
in,
true.
for Jim Jones to have gotten in the gang, it had to already be available and popular. He wasn't the biggest nigga that joined that gang. It existed before him.
Yes, you're right. It did existed before him, but I'm telling you, his influence caused the growth of gang activities in the East Coast, man. This is what I'm telling
you
you.
keep talking about influence, right? So the reality is this: people can only be influenced to do the things that they have an interest in first. That's why it starts with N.
Right, right. Okay.
Intersect.
Let,
It
let me
starts with
let me
you.
explain. Let me explain this. Yes, there was bloods. There was certain amount of Crips and Vice Lords and Latin Kings towards the East Coast. Yeah, but it wasn't a
Blackstones.
popular thing. It was not a popular thing. Now that Jim Jones and the Dipset um, promoted their set in the music industry, you will see a great significance of gang activity growth in the East Coast because of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Yeah, it
that's
was
the
already
thing.
there, but if you have somebody like influencing you and put you in that lane to make that bad decision, yo, that's an issue. We
If
can't
you're
ignore
alive,
that.
no, if you're alive, you're in the lane to make a bad decision. Life.
Did Nipsey Hussle popularize? Did Snoop Dogg popularize being a Crip, or was it already popular and that's why he joined?
He had to make it popular because
Yeah,
according
yeah.
to
Well, hold
Rush,
on, hold on. No, that's not what I'm saying. You're twisting
okay,
it. That's not what I'm saying.
okay, well, make it clear to
First
me
of
because I'm
all,
curious.
first of all, gang culture does not. Maybe you're not gonna understand because y'all not from the East Coast. You know what I mean? But gang culture is not our culture in the East Coast. I'm gonna say this again. It's not our culture. It stems from the West Side and Midwest. That's where
So,
that culture stems from. You know what I mean?
so
So
even if
no
that
Snoop
was a
Dogg did
partial
not make it
truth,
popular because it was already there. That's where the birth of gang activity stems from. Is from where he's from. That's all I'm saying.
actually, it doesn't though. Do you know? Do you know about? Before I go there, let me. Because I'm gonna go and I'm gonna talk about the music history on the East Coast in an abundance. So before I go there, let me go back to this point before I forget it. So let me go back to this point because I'm gonna forget to go back here. Hold on, Rush. I'm gonna let you back in a sec. Let me find this comment. Okay. Where is the who made the comment earlier about the guns? Okay, I found it. So K DeJour made the comment and said, "You mean if they give us a bunch of guns, does that mean you have to use them, right?" So when we say they, I want to confirm if you're still on here. Are you speaking to the government? Because this is one that I feel is the root of much of this. And I know that official urban therapist is talking about psychologically forcing concepts on people. And the way that we do, let me expand on that part. The way that we do research when it comes to the control group and research, it's still your choices are still 100% yours. And that's the purpose of doing that type of research. You know why? Because we need to understand ill conceived human behavior. And that happens to be the bulk of the black culture. Now, not to say that it doesn't affect other people and other cultures of people, but other people, when they engage in wars, it's typically wars around ideals, religion, and things that help to shape their culture. When you ask about Black American culture and why we engage in wars in these streets, because every day is a war in these streets, because these kids die more than we die in combat in Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan. Okay. And in Afghanistan, I gotta be honest, we lose a lot of people there. And some of that stuff it doesn't go on record and you guys don't see it. But the amount of black people killing black people in America while we are over there fighting a real war, that amount, that number is way above the amount of soldiers dying. And that's it's always beyond me because I ask myself, I'm like, so what are we over here fighting for? Black people are American people. Like hell, we're over here losing our life, risking our lives for people that don't even give a damn about themselves because you're still American people. So why not just let the fucking Afghanis come over here and line y'all up, give you a couple of guns, extra ammo to go out there and do what you're going to do to yourself anyway? To me, that makes more sense. I feel like our community, we have such a lack of accountability when it comes to these particular issues. And these guns that are on the street, none of these guns are registered. All of these guns are stolen. All of these guns are smuggled. All of these guns are unaccounted for. And who puts it in the hands of black people? You.
The government. You know the answer is the government. The government walked up to them. They said, "Here, you take
Had,
this gun, little nigger, and you learn how to shoot other niggas with it." That's how.
had to. Had to. And so when we talk about celebrity culture, celebrity culture is meant to allow us to see a more expansive view of the behaviors that we have shaped as people. That's why so many celebrities, and they're not creating a narrative. They're only giving insight to the narrative that already exists in our community that we don't take light of, we don't see, we don't accept. So when you talk about people like Kevin Samuels and him being out there, he's out there because these are realities for some of us in our culture. So when I talk about him, it's not that he's not correct about some of our culture. He's only correct about a very small margin, but he makes those small margin of our culture representative of all of us. And that's a negative connotation. As many successful black doctors, many successful black lawyers, many successful black people in general that have come about, we've held highest office of the United States at this point. And I feel like in our minds, all we can see is that somebody else is responsible for us not reaching our goals because we want to set our goals and our standards so fucking low. Like that is what is crazy to me.
I call it hidden colors anxiety. That's the new thing that I made up. Niggas are having that hidden colors anxiety. They remember watching that movie and it's like it's the white man's fault.
So wait, there is Mr. Brooks mentioned the thing with child support and the benefit of money and how that contributes to the perpetuation of the cycle of women becoming single mothers and things like that in the black
I
community.
agree. I
So
agree. The reason why I agree with that is because they're getting positive feedback on their negative behavior.
so wait, let me add this one because you made a point about Planned Parenthood. So if there is a Planned Parenthood on every corner, and Planned Parenthood is also equally incentivized, how is that a possibility?
What do you mean?
Don DeMarco.
When women go in to get
Trey, man,
abortion,
yo, listen, man. Just because we don't
many of
agree
these
with some
women,
things,
many,
don't mean
many
you
of these women don't. No,
gotta be
many of
biased.
these women, when they go in to get abortion, many of these women don't have health care insurance. and they get some world renowned healthcare insurance coverage for the next 6 months.
Russ, you know damn well I ain't biased. I always go with niggas with this the white man is against us mentality. That's never gonna change about me.
It's bullshit though. That's the thing. When do we
No,
stop
it's not. No,
moving
it's not
into a
BS. But go ahead,
place?
guys. Go ahead, guys.
When do we stop moving into a place of making excuses and move into a place of accountability and do better because we know better? When do we
Russ,
do that?
this is what I don't understand, Russ. You're looking at three people on the panel. You being one of them that wasn't affected by this shit. Yet you keep saying it's a mass plot to get us. How the fuck did we escape?
We got lucky.
Shout out to
All the others. So everybody that's gotten away that hadn't gotten caught up is lucky. All the millions of people that have come and gone before us, they're lucky.
Well, I mean, you got to factor in that we have family. You know what I'm saying? There's things that factor in that helps us to be on the level that we're on now. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody has those tools in order to become successful in life, especially when you're dealing with melanated people in the United States.
I didn't
Even
have
though,
those
hold on,
tools, but I found a way.
even though it is out of all the countries I've been to, yo, this is the illest place for black people to get a come up.
I don't understand. I don't understand how you can maintain that mindset. I really don't. But let me go to my previous, what I was going to save this for. Funk Master Flex. Does anybody remember Funk Master Flex?
Oh yeah, for Master Flex, yeah. He's still relevant to this day.
Okay, so what year and where was that?
He's been like, he's old. He's like your age. No disrespect, but he's been around.
If I could reach through this screen, what you won't do is call me old, okay? Like Kevin Samuels, don't talk over me. You're not gonna call me old, sir. Get your shit together.
You're mature. You're mature.
No.
All right,
So,
is that better? Both y'all mature people.
No, I'm well seasoned. Damn it. That's it. But no, to get to the point, where did Funk Master Flex have the greatest influence?
Well, obviously New York. He's from New York City. He's really popular in the limelight over there.
But you're right. So that is not on the East Coast, is it? It can't be.
But New York is not considered the East Coast?
You just said that gang activity was not the East Coast ideas of goals in life. That wasn't an East Coast thing. What you that's not a part of our
gang culture is not a part of our culture in the East Coast.
It actually is. It actually is. It actually is.
Hold on. Not to the extent as the people from yes, yes, there was some type of gang activities. You know what I mean? But it wasn't to the extent as the people from the West Coast. Like people from Cali, you got
the evolution of gangs.
What you mean?
The evolution of gangs is what changed things. There were gangs when we came in before we went into integration. They just didn't look like the gangs today. So they worsened over the course of time because what was acceptable socially in the Black community changed over time. So initially, gangs were a substitute for parents that were unable to be emotionally available for their kids. So
not the type of gang activity we see that's just from the West Coast.
That's what I'm telling you. It's still the same. It's around the same mentality.
Those guys from the West Coast, that's a whole different breed of gang activities. It's not the same. Like they're the originators of it. Like you have children. You have children from blood sets that's born into blood sets. Grandparents that's into that. Like this is how serious they set seriously. That does not come from the East Coast. That comes from the West Coast and the Midwest.
That's evolution.
But if y'all have adopted the West Coast culture on the East Coast, why does it matter where it started?
It's evolution. Even on the West Coast, it's evolution. That's what I'm telling you. Gangs are everywhere. They've all evolved.
it matters because one is authentic and the other is just a carbon copy.
Oh my God, he said a whole lot when he said that the government isn't pulling the trigger, it's our own people. So, how many people can be honest about that point? That's a hard truth.
It is true.
That's a hard truth. When we
We're the
talk
only
about
yo,
these
honestly,
drugs,
we're the only race of people in this world, in this earth, that hate each other to that extent where we have to kill each other. We're the only race that do that.
well, people typically will kill each other, if they think it's okay for them to do it,
Yeah,
if they
but
think that they
I
can get away
I don't know
with
if you
it.
ever heard the saying, but this is such a messed up saying, but I'm going to say it. Don't nobody hate a nigga more than a nigga. You know what I mean? And it's a fact.
And it has nothing to do with what the Planned Parenthood, black white men dropping guns off, and none of the other shit we've been espousing up here. It has nothing to do with that. Niggas that's just innate in us.
Yeah, so we have to ask ourselves, why is it that we refuse to take accountability? So everything has evolved. And that's a problem for me because the directionality that it's evolving in is what's dangerous for the black community. And that's what's leading to the genocide of us. We want to talk about the police killing us, but we're not talking about us killing us in insurmountable numbers and different ways. We found different ways. We've eliminated our legacy before our legacy ever got a chance to start. Like women going to these abortion clinics, those are conscientious black people decisions. Those are us, our decisions. It's nobody else's decision but us. When we are killing ourselves using substances and deciding that, okay, because it's legal, because it was prescribed for somebody and I have access to it, I'm going to go ahead and engage. I'm going to indulge in this. I'm just going to entertain myself for a night because it feels good. It's going to get me to where I'm trying to get to. It's going to take my pain away. I'm not going to navigate more viable means of me alleviating myself of this pain. I'm going to just do this because it numbs for about fucking 5 minutes or something. And you know what? After that, I'm going to take some more. And then after that, I'm going to take some more. You know why? Because I don't do the research on the things that will harm my vital organs, my vitality, my life, the things that were in my life. But I will definitely do the research on things that look like other people are causing my life to have a short end of the stick, or causing my health to decline. Not kill me, okay, not kill me, but causing my health overall to decline. So I'll talk about the food products having blah, blah, blah in it. I'll talk about the FDA approving drugs that could cause liver damage and kidney damage over a course of time. But I'm not going to talk about how I'm taking those drugs and I wasn't prescribed those drugs and I'm taking them otherwise than they were prescribed for somebody else even. I'm not going to talk about those things because that means I have to not only be accountable for having this knowledge or having access to these drugs, but I also have to kind of be responsible for fucking killing myself. That is the problem with us. That is the problem with us. We have a problem with introspect work because the deeper we look inside and we see the inadequacies in us, the further we run away from our truth. Because we try to find little snippets that can mask, that can unearth insecurities in other people as they're associated with us. So they look responsible for what we are responsible for because we've recognized that we are responsible for those things, even when we were just looking for accountability. Because it's so big, it's so in our face. We can't avoid it. But we don't even want to sit with it, even when we see it in our face. DMX dies and we said, well, you know what? He was a junkie all his life. He kind of struggled with it, but he made some good music. So fuck it. He was ready to die anyway. He had made his
The
peace.
same thing we do we do the same thing with white musicians.
Yeah, but that's the thing. White people, even though they're killing themselves the same or similar ways, they're not doing it in the numbers that we are doing it. So it says something about the amount that we value us. We value our culture because at the end of the day, guess what? Let me tell you something about white American people. white American people have accepted the fact that they're evolutions of another race of people in a whole different country. They've accepted that. They have accepted that they can be whatever it is that other people are. So if Brazilian people are white skinned, they can be a white person and be Brazilian. And they can make babies with that Brazilian person and continue their lineage because they don't have a problem with cultural identity. We do. We do. So the more that they kill themselves via substance abuse and suicide, whatever those numbers are, it will never kill their lineage because they have identified with a color being indicative of what their race is. We have a problem with even that. Black people still argue about what a true black person is. Black people want to take your black card just because you have another race.
Yep.
Black people are trying to make another set of division and characteristics to classify what it means to be black because they can't accept being black, having a black ancestors is not enough. And the reality is many of them aren't even black. Many of them are Asian and fucking Native American. That's the reality.
Because I never hear white people make fun of each other for having paler skin than the next.
Exactly. It's a us issue.
So you pale skin. Never heard it.
Yeah. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in other cultures or people. It's us. There is a issue with us seeing us for who we are. And as a result of seeing those things, stepping into a place of accountability and doing something different. That is all that I urge people to do. I urge people to do something different. Be the change that is a part of us stepping into a higher level of functioning in society. That's it. Is that so damn hard? Where your mom at, your daddies, your granddaddies at? Like, that's what I don't understand.
Well, they've gotten younger over the past 40, 50 years. They've gotten younger, so they don't know as much as our grandparents did back in the day. They haven't been through as much shit as our grandparents went through.
To be honest with you, your great grandparents were actually younger parents and younger grandparents. We come from people who normalized getting married at ages 11 for women, 18 for men.
But they still went through shit, so that meant at the young age of 11, they were used to being a wife and a husband doing family stuff, doing stuff. They have different values. They have different work ethic.
But that's what I'm saying. They had somebody to account for and to hand them down their legacy lines. And they had somebody to take them to church so they could believe in something greater than them and therefore have faith and hope that something lies ahead other than what they can see in front of them. And that is what positions people to do better than their current situation, to be better than their current situation. Hope does that. We have lost hope as black people because we get caught up with what's in front of us.
I was with you till you said the church. I think the church is one of the biggest downfalls that we had as black people.
It wasn't. If you look at the functionality of black people when black people had faith in religion, and we look at the functionality of black people now who are far evolved from faith and religion, it's not about what religion you decide to ascribe to. It's about ascribing to something bigger than you. So when you don't subscribe to anything, you become nothing. Because you have that is greater than you as a human being to hold on to faith that something could be in the future that's not right now.
This feels like deja vu, like I've had this conversation with you before. But me, in my personal case, I went through the church, I went to private Catholic school, all of that shit. And the only reason I didn't do a lot of bad shit is out of fear of going to hell. It's not healthy.
That's what I'm saying, though. You didn't do it. That's the thing that's different. That's the difference between you and the many Black American men that are currently locked up because they have sold drugs, embraced gang culture, and continued that to perpetuate the cycle, or ended up on the other side of a bullet.
But I'm not a proponent of scaring people to act right. They have to act right because the goodness in them wants them to act right.
But goodness is only given if we can give a person a negative outcome. If we cannot give them a possible negative outcome, they will never step into a place of fulfillment when it comes to positive outcomes. That's why I say life is about balance. We need the balance. We can't have all positive energy. Everybody's elevating themselves and nobody's failing, because that's the only comparison that will allow us to be great and to step into places of achievement in life. That's it. That's it. Like if we don't see our friends failing, then how can we truly excel?
We have to fail.
If we don't see our friends failing and we fail ourselves, we still won't truly excel because the bar is too low.
I can see that.
So we need to see in comparison that people that are coming up next to us don't have opportunities. If it's just us, if we're the only proponent that are either failing and making successes and everybody else in the world is rising above, that's where we get the mindset that racism exists. That's what we get, the mindset that the system is against us, because it starts to look like the odds are against us because everybody else is moving forward and we're not. We have to be able to have comparative analyses where we're people who are elevating our game and then other people are failing and a couple of other folks are elevating. So it's a couple of folks up here at the top and we're doing something that's similar to one another that make us different than our counterparts that are not necessarily accelerating to the level that we are. So you said actually other cultures and ethnic groups don't see biracial people as exactly like them. So black people who define black people as two black people are simply dealing with reality and common sense. That's not true because I'm Finnish American, and guess what? In Finland, I'm just Finnish. I was never a black Finnish girl, and this is where I was raised.
But there are black Finnish people though. So that's why there are black Finnish people,
Right.
there are
We
white
don't,
Finnish people.
right, but that's the thing. We don't do color. We just don't. We don't see that as a component. When it came to being a mixed person, I'm Finnish American because my Finnish citizenship is primary. American citizenship is secondary. So it doesn't matter if we see the culture because we only look at the culture of people. And even if we're looking at the culture of a person, we're still including you in this culture because this is now your culture. Just like in America, you're required to learn about the culture that you are immersed in. And so the thing is, if this is what you've decided to want for yourself and for your children, for your legacy, for your line, that they have to know the history of that said culture. American people, whether they are black or white, have a problem with their history. You guys are removing artifacts, historical monuments and statues and shit like that, and people think that that's okay. Like it's beyond me. It's that if anything else, the statues from the Civil War indicate how great people who are descendants of slaves are. It indicates triumph. And what black people see that as a constant reminder of negative energy and that you are inferior to someone else because somebody lied to you and got in your head enough to make you really think that. That is beyond me. How do you think your ancestors that fought so hard, that held out hope, that had so much faith for where you are now, how do you think they would feel? Like, I think when we think about religion, religion makes you so seated in culture that when you decide to make a move in life, you reflect on how your ancestors will think about it. Because what religion does is tell you that there is something on the other side. And so it tells you that somebody else is going to watch over what your actions are in this life. It tells you that you're accountable to somebody greater than you. So when I say religion and when I say spirituality is a huge proponent to people cultivating positive behaviors, it is. That's the single thing that is different in the black community. Find me one other thing. Remove religion out of the school, and that is what happened. If you guys go back and you do some history taking and do some research, that's what you will see. That is the only thing that changed. As a result, society changed as a whole. The black community went further down the hole But society changed as a whole. We started seeing school shootings for the very first time.
I think my kids are well-adjusted atheists, all four of them.
Keep thinking that.
I mean, I went through the God thing, so I refuse to put fear in my kids of something that's just it's. And then also religion gives you a crutch because if you don't do good, you can always just say, "Well, I'll get my paradise in heaven." I can just keep being a sack of shit, and I'll get my paradise when I die.
That's not how that
It
works.
makes you lazy. It,
That's not
it
how it works.
does that, but that's how a lot of people use religion. They use anything good that
They
happens
don't.
is God. Anything bad that happens in their life is the devil. It ain't nothing that they did. They could
So,
have did some fucked up shit and say the devil put me in jail.
so on the contrary, it still makes you accountable to a higher power because God conditions people to believe that they have freedom of choice. And if they make their choices and those choices are not in line with their spiritual resonance, guess what? The negative yieldings will come. And that's when the devil will come in. So that mindset, that mindset in and of itself keeps people on the straightaway. Now, when they don't have that fully, they do make comments like these right here. You know, that's
Well, we don't have that. I don't have that.
that's what.
That higher power stuff hanging over me and my kids, and we seem to be well adjusted. We ain't out here making no fucked up decisions
Yeah,
just because, not because of God, it's because we know it's wrong and there are consequences on earth to the fucked up shit that we do. We ain't gotta wait till we die. If you do some dumb shit on earth, you're going to jail
but
or
that's
you
how
might get killed.
that's still the law of man. That's still scribed in the Bible. But people who don't have that, that's what I'm telling you. So people who don't have a father and a mother to condition them as to what outcomes look like, and they don't either have a religious context that can condition them, will naturally gravitate to whatever the environment has to teach them. So the problem is, it's not just not having religion, it's not having religion to be something that binds people to a greater purpose in life when they don't have parental authority to do that. It's about giving people the propensity to grow into situations, to be something better, to adopt faith and hope principles that position them into different situations that allow them to do something else, to rise above their obstacles. They can't do that if they haven't been told that they can be whatever they want. They can't do that if they haven't been told the sky is the limit. They can only do what society, environment, and culture and all of those components together condition them to do. If that's nothing, they will be nothing. And that is what we're seeing. So you're seeing kids that don't have anything,
I agree.
anything.
That was a mic drop moment.
I'm just saying,
I,
like,
I, I agree. I said I agree. Mic drop moment. I can't argue with you.
so the
They had mention of
outgrowth,
God in public schools, though.
yeah, and we did have religion in public schools here in America. So religion has never been something that was outside. Prayer is a part of religion, just in case you didn't notice. Your constitution here in America, what is that? Does anybody know that your founding fathers
We're religious. The
this
money is
entire
religious.
in religion? So
Separation of church and state is fairly new.
that is where we started to see the decline of people in human behavior, because once you separate those components, society starts to have less accountability to a higher power in general. So maybe you haven't done your due diligence when it comes to history taking. You need to get yourself off of Google and go in somebody's library. That's all I'm saying. Everything is not going to be on Google. Not everything.
Hell, and they still do the Pledge of Allegiance in schools now, and they have the mention of God in it.
Slick. Just
Well,
one
they're
time.
not slick. They just know people aren't going to complain about it. Nobody's going to say, "Hey, if church and state are separate, why the fuck are we saying the Pledge of Allegiance that has God in there? And we got students from all other religious denominations in here, and we're making them acknowledge God."
But that's the thing. They're moving to take that out. Even they don't want kids to pledge to anything, and that's what I'm trying to explain to people. People don't understand that, but
I'm not against it though.
when we don't have any type of higher power at all, when we don't have any type of ethics that grounds us, our
That should
moral,
be taught at home though. That should be a at home thing, not a public thing that everybody has to follow or do.
it takes a village
Because
to
then
raise
you
a child. So
Yes,
we need
but
to
in we
do that.
know in these public schools we have all type of racial backgrounds and religious ethnicities.
You do.
So it's fucked up to make Muslim kids and Buddhist kids say the Pledge of Allegiance when it mentions God and they're not religious to that God.
But they are citizens, right?
Yes, they are, but they have a different religious belief. That's why I'm saying it shouldn't be in schools because everybody don't believe in the same God, and you're making those people feel uncomfortable acknowledging a God that they've never even known or acknowledged in their life.
It doesn't tell them about the Holy Trinity. It doesn't tell them God Almighty. It says God in general. So every version of whatever religion people subscribe to, they all mention God, and it's all
But their gods have
toward
a
God.
specific name. Their
Yeah,
gods have a specific name though.
it's not necessarily having Allah is not a specific name that's different than God. Allah means God Almighty as well.
It's still not the word God. It could be translated different,
So
but it's a proper
they could
name.
say, but they could ascribe to their they could substitute that one word for that, but at least they're pledging to something. They're making some level of commitment that keeps them grounded. That's the point. And the reality is, children are not taught to pledge to anything. Children are not taught to subscribe to anything, any belief systems whatsoever, because parents aren't parenting anymore. Neither are grandparents. So you said decisions are analogous to outcomes, nothing to do with belief systems. Plenty of believers make bad decisions and choices and end in prison. So, what do you think
Yep.
guilt? What do you think guilt has to do in that? Do with that? If
People
if
don't feel guilt a lot of times.
no, wait for it. If belief systems don't have anything to do with it, hey, desert woman, how are you? Oh, the K du jour. The curse words come out every once in a while.
Jeez.
Context,
How old are you?
language, and meaning. So if you attribute, so I think about it's all about context.
I don't like being told how to talk.
Right.
Nobody tells the pastor how to deliver their message. Nobody tells the teacher how to deliver their message. Nobody tell like what the hell?
But that's the thing. I think it's an elemental thing, and right, Kimbo. So I want the Al show to answer this question about people having guilt or shame. Because everything in your life, everything that you do is based on belief systems, even though you may not think about it. When we think about the psychology of human behavior, when we explain what it means for a person to be human, everything that you do is based on belief system. Everything. Now, some people's
What
belief
beliefs?
systems evolve over time because they have exposure to further belief systems, but that's not to say that belief systems don't have a very important role to play in the grand scheme of things as people are developing and shaping their personalities. So if we look at it from even a scientific level, your belief system has always contributed to the decisions that you make. When you go into society, and this is my favorite one, and you're 18 years old, and for the first time you're going to buy a car, you have to believe that that's a possibility for you, no?
No, you have to know. You have to know that you have the means to get that car. I will say he has a point on his comment because there are a lot of people that are religious as hell, like pastors, and they still commit crimes.
Yeah, but that still has nothing to do with how you feel afterwards. But let's go
But,
ahead. You
but,
said
but it has
how would
nothing to do with God, though. It has nothing to do with you worrying about God punishing you because you believe in God. You the pastor, and you
it's
still
not
doing
about
illegal shit.
that's still not about God. Everybody belief system isn't God. So if you know that you have the means to buy this car, what belief system does that come from? Knowledge is about belief. Knowledge in and of itself is about belief. We can't know a thing unless we believe a thing. Anybody can give us truth. When people go and they follow Kevin Samuels, you know why they follow him?
But beliefs and knowing are different. You can't prove belief. You just believe it. That doesn't mean it's true because you believe it.
You do. You
Just
do.
like these people on here have been believing that the white people cause all of this shit, but that doesn't make it true. It's a belief.
But that's what I'm telling you. So their belief system does what? It contributes to how they operate. It contributes to how they pursue truth. It contributes as to what they do and don't do. If you believe that the white person is after you or the white person is holding you down, and therefore you don't go and apply for that job because you notice that that's a building where mostly white people work, and you're a black person, your belief system is that the world was not set up for you to achieve outcomes in that particular type of setting. That's your belief system.
Well, see, that's what Al is saying. These people that believe in God, that's their belief system, but they still go out and do stupid shit to get them
So,
arrested or whatever.
so people
So
who
their
have
belief
a
system
belief,
doesn't come into place. They say
yes,
fuck their beliefs and they do what they want to do.
it does.
How can you, if your belief system is so strong and you fear God, you would not be out here breaking God's rules.
Right, Kimbo, that's what I'm getting to. So, if your belief system is as a Christian, you believe in God, or even as a Catholic, you believe in God, right? Or let's just say you're a Muslim and you believe in Allah, right? Let's just say any of these are your belief system. In every single sector of every single one of those said belief systems that I just named is free will. And also outcomes. The outcomes are very clear. They're ascribed very clear. So if your belief system is that if you do a bad thing, right, whatever is perceived to be outside of the laws and regards of your belief system, there are outcomes to that particular thing. Now, some people who are old school Christians and they're first Old Testament Bible thumpers, they don't believe that after you've done a thing that goes against the scribes of God or the 10 commandments that you can be redeemed. They would have to believe in the New Testament. Their belief system may not be one that believes in the New Testament. Those people believe that they are condemned to hell forever, period. Period.
And that I was going to add to, was if you believe that people like that, they prove that there's an illusion of free will because it's simply do as I say or you going to hell. There's no free will in there. It's do as I say or else.
That's just Old Testament. If you believe in the New Testament, you believe that if you end up doing these crimes, whatever they are, if those are also equally crimes committed against God and man, that means that you can repent. And if your heart is repentant, if your heart has remorse in it, if your heart has regret in it, and you repent and you give your life over to God, whatever that is, right? You stand in a place of renewed energy. And as a result, you can go through life and now make good decisions and good choices, and you will be welcome into the judgment realm where you're going to be judged for the things that you did while on earth. And that scale is balanced and weighed out. And whatever the outcomes are, you're willing to accept those outcomes based off of what your life yielded. So,
I
free will
find
is
that horrific.
part of that.
I find that horrific though. So Dr. Jefferson, what you telling me is I could rape you tomorrow and as soon as I get done raping you, I start having a heart attack. I can ask God for forgiveness. I will be forgiven, and you get to see me in heaven.
It just
That's
depends on
terrible.
how it depends, of course, on how you felt after raping me. So if you
I
raped
said if I
me,
repented, I said if I repent,
mhm.
I get to go to heaven, and then you get to go to heaven and see me, the guy that raped you.
Yeah, but when you go to heaven, that's a different life. It's a spiritual life, right? So that means that you're
I
living.
don't. We don't know. We can't prove that.
I'm only going from what's in these different books, okay? These books, all books align. All of these religious books align. Say, because I've
I'm
studied
still gonna be
religion
your rapist though.
pretty in depth. It was a part of
Me
my,
too. So I'm still gonna be your rapist though.
but not really, because the spirit realm has nothing to do with the life you lived on earth. Once you're accepted into heaven, you're accepted into heaven, and all of that stuff is forgotten. Everybody's brother and sisters, no parents, it's none of those subsystems exist there. So we're all
Okay.
on a core. Your only spiritual
You
energy, those energies that from your life lived on earth has nothing to do with your spiritual resonance. And I
question, Dr. Jefferson,
go
since
ahead.
we're going down this rabbit hole. Do you
Yeah.
believe that God is a spirit?
Essentially, God would have to be a spirit if God is all things.
Okay, so ask me this. Well, answer me this. Why does God need a throne, a seat, which is for humans, an ass? You need for a seat. We know what a seat does. God has a seat. God has paving roads. I don't know why spirits need to walk on roads and golden gates. Why is this needed for spirits?
Well, you have to ask yourself, what does that mean? If
It
we're
means God must be human if he got a seat
not
and he
necessarily
walking on
everything.
paved roads.
No, so everything written in the Bible, everything written in the Quran, everything written in the Book of Mormon, all of these different religions, everything written is based off of interpretation. So we talk about roads every single day. We talk about walk every single day, but a spirit can't walk because a spirit doesn't have legs. We wouldn't know. But walking is about journey, living out a journey. So if eternal life means to step into a place of salvation, so finally you're autonomized. You don't have to deal with human struggles of being alive on earth, right? You're not tied to that past life because that's one life. As you are working to evolve into this other state of being where you're free of the atrocities that go along with free will and all this crazy stuff where you're trying to earn your way into this everlasting eternity of paradise where you don't have to be tied to that. What you have to understand is that path, that road could be your journey. It's about symbolism. So you're reading a book that's based on symbolism. If you're reading the book as it's meant to be read, if you're taking the interpretations as they're meant to be interpreted from the experience of all of these people who have contributed to the development of these books because they've told their stories to be included in these books, then you can attribute the meaning that your spirit aligns you to attribute to it. If it pulls away from you, maybe that's not your natural belief system, or maybe you have been shamed in that system from another person's belief system or the way they articulated it, and they sent you going a different direction. That happens all the time in religion. What do you mean? You got
I'm have to go clean my ears out after all this religious propaganda you spewing.
I'm just talking. These are
I'm
just
just
types
joking.
of belief
I'm
system.
just joking. I'm
So
just joking.
I'm just saying though, these are just types of belief system. My problem is this. Um, it says don't force Christianity slash religious belief or values on others. Yes, there is a creator. So that's a belief system though. So expressing what your belief system are, whatever those systems are
Yes.
for you, doesn't mean that you're forcing it on anybody else. It means that you're tethering yourself to some level of moral and ethical accountability. That's what that means. Belief systems are things that motivate us to do what we do as human beings, to step into the space that we step in. We can't step onto a car into a car dealership, right? We can't step into a car dealership and purchase a car if we don't believe we have the means to purchase that car, if we don't believe that we can purchase that car. It's like an American person going to a different country where you're visiting, obviously, right? And walking into someone else's home because you believe that Mikasa is Sukasa.
You know what's funny about Jermaine G's comment? He
Which
doesn't even when he says there is a creator, he doesn't even realize he believes there's a creator.
that's what I'm saying. And that's his belief system. So it's not that I'm forcing anything on you. Everybody who is living, breathing, moving in this space on earth has some belief system. Because if you did it,
Especially if you're into some type of spirituality.
Exactly. But it doesn't matter
Cause
because you can't move through life without believing in something. It doesn't matter what
yeah,
you believe in. You believe in something. When you go out there and you commit crimes, you believe your ass ain't gonna get caught.
true. I believe in myself. You're absolutely right.
You believe that you're above the law if somebody's slipping today. You believe that you're having a lucky day today. When you go out there and decide to rob that bank, you believe that you can get away with it. Whether whether that aligns with facts or not, based off of what the outcomes are, your belief system is what's going to shape the behavior. So without a religious or spiritually grounded belief system, Americans operate from a place of zero accountability because there is no accountability to be had. I don't know why that is so difficult, and to understand.
It's not difficult. I get what you're saying, but I understand what you're saying. I guess me being an atheist, I feel like I have accountability to myself, my family, and my society without having a all powerful being above me. So I still feel like I have accountability, even though it's not grounded in religious beliefs.
Yeah, but that's
So
what
I
I'm
get
saying.
what you're saying, though.
Yeah, but it's not about religious belief. You're in a country that is built off of religion anyway. Your citizenship is based off of religion. Look at your
I
birth
know.
certificate, not just
Oh, I
not
know.
just your constitution. Look at your birth certificate. Look at the dollars that you spend every single day. So it says in God we trust. So y'all spending them damn dollars like y'all definitely believe in religion.
One nation under God.
So,
I get all of that. That's what I'm saying. I get all of that, but I get what you're saying. You're saying that I definitely get it, but I'm just using me personally, I guess, because I feel like I'm still accountable to society around me to make the best decisions for me and society, no matter what I believe in.
Kimbo J is too funny. You said that's not a belief
I
system
like the crowd today.
of to come from something. Something. What are you
Sir,
saying?
sir, it is a belief system. If you believe there's a creator, there's no way you can take belief from in front of it. Because you don't know if there's one. You only believe, just like with Dr. Jefferson and anyone else. They don't know if God exists. They believe it does. That's why it's a belief. You can't prove it.
So help me understand this, the Al show. This is interesting to me. You said no,
I
not
like
quite.
the Al show.
Me too. I just love it. Plenty of accountability. It comes from the law, social rejection, and cultural norms. So cultural
That's what I
norms,
just said, though.
there, those are belief systems, my guy.
But now he's talking about the accountability part as far as religion. That's why I was saying I understand what you're saying that the country has went to shit since I can agree that the country has gone to shit since they said we're going to separate church and state. Even though I don't believe in God, I can agree society was a lot more controlled when there was religion just all around. No matter which one it was better. I can agree with that, but
So human behavior has to be controlled. And so my problem with you, Al, let me explain something. There is a difference between accountability and responsibility. And I think that maybe you need to go back and watch further videos from my beginning where I explained to you guys the difference of the concepts. The problem
can you do it now?
is that
Do it now for him. You may as well. You here.
so accountability means that you're only accounting for the presence of a thing, a belief, or idea or event, okay? Or yourself. You could be accountable for yourself or other people as well, right? So you can account for or recall. That's what it means. Recall that a thing happened, right? That's only accounts. That's what accounts are. So accountability is only us confirming that these are things, period. Calling a thing a thing. Responsibility means that you are responsible for these things happening. So you find fault in something that you did, another entity did, a couple of entities did that contributed to either the ripple effect or the direct impact of a particular thing that you've accounted for. So that's how they differ in the two. So the thing about that is when you talk about accountability comes from the law, it doesn't. That's them holding you responsible for a thing, not accountable for a thing. because you still could be sitting in the space where you truly are saying that you're guilty. That's how people get convicted of murder, but they said they were innocent. Ask Derek Chauvin how he feels about that. Derek Chauvin never took responsibility for murdering George Floyd, by the way. He never took responsibility for murdering those other 6 people that he had murdered in the last 3 years.
Well, he was held accountable for him now.
He was held accountable for George Floyd. That's it. Those other families, because they were not brown families, because they were white families, never made it to court. Because it's not a thing that the police officers murder them in custody because of substance use too. That's the reality. So accountability coming from the law is not them forcing you to take accountability. It's them holding you accountable because they see this account as relevant, and them holding you responsible as a result of what they see you accountable for, and your outcomes are results of that. And their belief system is that God says murdering people is against the law. Just gonna go ahead and say that. That's why when you make that pledge to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, they don't ask you to say, so help you your non-belief system. You ascribe to their belief systems that day. So either whether you want to admit it or not, sit with it or not, or understand it or not, people operate based on their belief system, period. So we have to be accountable. We have to learn how to be accountable for our behavior so we don't have to be responsible for reckless behavior in the future. That is what this is about. So we see substance use in the Black community happening, and we see that killing large numbers of us. If we see sex and reckless sexual practices and us going to abortion clinics taking away our legacy in insurmountable numbers every year, right? And we're accountable for that today. We don't have to be responsible for a lack of us being an issue or relevant tomorrow. That is the point. If we can take hold of the accountability component and we can say that we're killing us in ridiculous numbers and we have no regard for human life because we don't have a damn belief system. If we can say these things, we can position ourselves for better outcomes tomorrow. And as a result, we can take responsibility for reseating ourselves in our greatness today so that we can say that something is hopeful for tomorrow. Other than that, we can only look at the demise of our race of people, and we can say that we're attributing to and take responsibility for a lack of doing anything, and therefore contributing to the demise of our culture of people. So, I mean, do what you want to do. But we're here for accountability conversation. So I don't make excuses on this channel. If it hurts, go find something else to do.
Ooh, that was mean.
It is what it is. I mean, I think it's beyond me that this girl lost her mother yesterday. And people will say, oh, well, you know what? She made her choice. She made her choice. And these are people that have achieved several high levels of moving or positioning themselves in places to where they can be successful based off of their background.
Yes, Jermaine, something can come from nothing because according to your belief system, that's how the world was created.
This is true.
I can go apply for a job tomorrow with nothing and come back with the job, which is something. Yes, it's very possible.
So Al, the law holds you accountable when they hold you in a court case, when they hold a trial for which you said that you were not guilty for. Okay. They hold you accountable then. They hold you responsible when they convict you of the crime.
Yeah, because you could get exonerated and you weren't you were held accountable, but you weren't responsible for the charges that they put against you, so they let you go.
Exactly. Hey, Black Anonymous, how are you?
Hello, Black Anonymous. I'm a fan.
Of course. I think those other families never made it to court because the murder of their family member wasn't recorded for the world to see. No, they saw it. So police officers, I know that people sometimes think, I said within the last year. So police officers have had body cams for a very long time, but even more way before then, their cars, their vehicles record all interaction once those blue lights come on, right? And they go back a whole minute before. So how do you think I know that these things happen? At my level of clearance, I can get access to anything, literally. So because these things happened and because these families accepted the story that was given to them versus going after the police station because they knew that their family member had a history of substance use and irresponsible behavior, it was easy for them to just go with the story they were given. Very, very similar to Ahmaud Arbery's mother. And I talked about that. And she's a black woman. When they first called Ahmaud Arbery's mother, if you guys go back to her initial interviews, and my initial coverage of that on my Facebook, on my couple of my Facebook pages, you will see that Ahmaud Arbery makes it very clear that the first 2 days she sat with and believed that her son really had done these things. Do you want to know why? As parents of adult children, we realize the capacity of our children, regardless of other people realizing the capacity of our children or not. We know what our children have the capacity to do because we know we've seen their behaviors as they were shaping when we were molding and cultivating them. And Ahmaud Arbery's mother knew that. You understand? So
Yeah,
people,
she knew he was a criminal.
not that he was a criminal, she knew.
Ma'am, if you believe your son is guilty of some shit that it's never been done before, you know that's what he is. Because typically, if your child is not used to doing stuff like that, the first thing you would say is, "Not my child." You're gonna
She
give your child the benefit of the doubt, not say, "Yeah, that was that nigga."
she knew that he had an issue with certain things. I'm gonna say that because before I
Exactly. She knew he was a criminal.
don't want to give any fuel for anybody else that is currently prosecuting these cases. She knew that her son had the propensity to, engage in certain types of behaviors, and sometimes
Criminal activity.
can be
We're
looked,
not gonna sugarcoat it, doctor. Criminal activity.
and sometimes those behaviors can be seen as criminal. Okay,
You
so
sugarcoating.
so
You sugarcoating.
what I know, right? Black Anonymous, me too. And so I'm not giving them anything to use in prosecution because at the end of the day, it is what it is. So you need to prove, you know, your position against this man that was an innocent bystander recording this thing because there's a lot of things that a lot of people
Oh,
are
I'm definitely mad about that guy being charged. Because had that guy not have recorded that shit, y'all wouldn't even have the proof that y'all have, and y'all gonna charge him for recording?
so people got to ask the question. People got to do their research. Like I dug deep into this one. I dug deep into this one, so it's a lot that I won't say because I want to make sure that this case get handled the right way. And I don't want any mistrials because you decided to see or hear or say or move in a different way. But Amar's mom knew the propensity of her child. That's my point. So until she had compelling evidence from the man who recorded it, just so y'all know where it came from.
Who didn't have to turn it in?
And he
Because
sent it
prior to him,
directly. He sent it
yeah,
directly.
because prior to him doing that, the men were exonerated. They were like, "Oh, it's legal shoot."
Yeah, yeah. So he didn't have to do any of the things that he did, but he did this for a reason. So that's the difference between responsibility and accountability, Al.
He
He
was
felt
the whistleblower.
He felt responsible for being there and not doing anything, where he even feared for his own life, and that's what ended up having him there in in the first place. That's the reality. Y'all don't know the backstory, but that's why he was even there in the first place. So the reality is this: when you feel responsible for something, whether or not you are or are not, your internal belief system is what will seat you before people, where you need to now render some level of accountability and take responsibility and render apologies or whatever it is that you can help the situation be different than what it is for you internally. So those are people that have moral compasses and a solid and sound sense of ethics because of their said belief system. Yeah, but the thing is, so it's not about, so I want you guys to understand this. Even if the world had not seen what happened to George Floyd, Derek Chauvin would have still been prosecuted and he still would have gone to jail. Even if that girl never reported on her phone. There are
Well,
so many,
he lied. He lied on the police report, so they don't know
he lied on the police
that.
report on the body cams of all of the other officers around. There was a very clear picture. And on the corner cam, there was a clear picture as to, there not being any resistance from George Floyd. It's too many, there were too many angles. So every shooting death is investigated. I'm gonna say that. So you guys have to understand how the system was already geared up, which is why it took so much time for them to render some level of change in the way that police operations involving police involved shootings with Black people are handled. Because these are things that were already in play. And Black people are so ignorant, they won't go do the research. You can't improve policies if you don't know the existing policy. And I talked about that. My thing is, the policies are already in place. It's just sometimes the people don't advocate for comprehensive investigations after internal affairs have come up short. So if these people's families had gone after the police station, the county, and then the city, and then the state, if they had done all of these things that were done by the George Floyd's representation, they would have gotten similar outcomes because the evidence is there. It's just where the evidence is. So that's what I'll say about that. And it's sad, it's a sad truth, but I think that we elevate and we come up and we show up for those cases because we got somebody else that we can blame. Every time we can point fingers, Black people are there for that. When it's time to point fingers back at us, we run and we look for excuses and we hope other people make excuses right with us. Let's see.
Heck, yeah, I don't know if they still make you put your hand on the Bible and swear to it, but yeah, that is. And then most of the times when you go in the court, you'll see some marking on the wall. Some courts still got the 10 Commandments up. Like, no, they slick still have all this shit in place. It's just not as overt as it used to be.
Exactly. I feel like it's very overt though. If you're in courts law, if you're in the courts enough, you know that this system and the laws are very much religious seated. All of the laws, all of the regulatory authority, all of these are very much religious seated. All of them are. So because you're outside and you're looking from the outside looking in, it's easy for you to say that. But the reality is, do a little bit more research into your laws and figure out why the laws that are there exist. The
You know
initial,
what just popped up in my head? The number of jurors and the number of disciples.
there you go.
Jeez, I just thought about that right
That's
then.
not, that's what I'm telling you. And people don't understand that. You don't understand the system that was created for you, which is your belief system. Because when you're an American citizen, believe it or not, stick with it or not, it's your belief system. Because you're a citizen. Otherwise, you would vacate citizenship and go somewhere else. Otherwise, you would break all the laws and get your ass locked up. And there go have your, citizens' rights evoked. So it is your citizenship and your belief system both together, because you're still free, or maybe you just ain't got caught yet. So how could he not confess to an officer that he helped corner a person if in order for him to keep other people from getting away? And I don't know how many of you have actually been to the scene of the crime, but I'm right here in Georgia. It's South Georgia. Took us 2 hours and some change to get there when we did our research. Because when I tell you I'm 100% for what I do, and I go really hard for social justice, you need
When
to.
was Ahmed? When was he cornered though? From the video, like from the time the video started, that man that recorded the
Never cornered.
video didn't get close at all. So when the fuck did he corner Ahmed Arbery?
He was never he was never cornered, but he did he prevent the persons that were driving in their truck. He did prevent them. He blocked them from being able to get past the walkway. However, it's a lot of grass right there. So if Ahmad wanted to run, he could have definitely ran. But
He
he
could have
wasn't
ran
gonna
left,
continue to
right. He
yeah,
ran straight towards the truck.
yeah, he wasn't going to continue to run because he was pissed off and he was going to go ahead and he felt like he could take them. But let me
I'm
tell
gonna
you
whoop
something.
these white boys.
That's right. You don't take a knife to a gunfight. Period.
Oh
So
yeah, I don't recall seeing him cornered at all, and not especially by the guy that was recording. The guy that was recording didn't leave his truck.
exactly. So you say it's the enforcement of these laws that needs to be applied equally. Well, the thing is, they're enforced to the extent that they
More
can.
white people are in jail than black people, so they are enforced equally.
They're enforced to the extent that they can be. So it depends on what type of evidence is left behind. When you talk about internal affairs and the investigative practices that they have and the morale that they create in the police environment when these investigations are going on, it gets very complex. And people don't give information the same way the black community doesn't render information when poo poo killed Ray Ray. Okay,
Yeah, white people snitching.
exactly. What do you think in Pennsylvania when this guy came out and he murdered his neighbors? You think the police just wandered into the neighbor's house across the street where he killed himself? They just wandered in there. They said, you know what? Let me just go over here. Let's just see. Let me just let me just see. Let me just go into this neighbor's house and just see what happens. No, the neighbors.
Police are dicks. Yeah, police are dicks to everyone, not just us.
Yeah, and the thing is, they have a job to do. But if you don't give information, if you don't tell, if you don't offer up information in white neighborhoods, this stuff happening, they offer up everything they got. Yeah, I got some, ring cameras. You want to see my ring camera?
Neighborhood Washington already spotted you.
Yeah, come on in. I saw the whole thing. Got the whole thing caught on my camera too. You want to see the version from my camera? I got it too. But in the black community, when this shit happens, we could have ring doorbell and every kind of camera, all of that stuff. But I can guarantee you a black person is not snitching on the black person. They're just not doing it. The boy could be in the
And
bed and
then on the and then in the chances that they do caught, we're gonna be screaming free him till we see him.
exactly. And the reality is the things that I see when I'm in our community and I'm working with us and I'm trying to keep these boys from killing each other and that kind of stuff. What I see in these Atlanta streets where I know our crime is the highest, what I see in DeKalb County, in Fulton County, and I thought it'd be enough when the movie, Snow on the Bluff, is that it? Got
That's
out.
fake.
I thought that would be enough. It really isn't though. It really isn't though. During that time, I was very much in that community, and when that young lady lost her life, like my heart broke for us.
Now the community exists, the Bluff community exists, but that movie was fake. Like, how is this? You do realize this nigga documented all his crimes and never went to jail.
Yes, I do.
That's why I know it's fake.
It's not fake.
How do you record all of your crimes and sell it worldwide and it not be staged? This nigga ain't been charged with. He literally showed himself shooting up these folk house.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
showed himself robbing drug dealers. He showed himself showing buying drugs. He literally snitched on himself, was
But
never charged. You mean to tell me this wasn't just entertainment?
each one of these crimes is documented. If you check the death records, his child's mother, she definitely died, and that's how she died. All of these things are facts. And that's what I'm telling you. If you got people, the same government that you claim is so against black people is working with you to give you the facts and the realities of what's happening in your community, and they're willing to make agreements and things like that with people for them to show this stuff, and we still won't accept it. That's interesting to me. That never dawned on me. Like, people are gonna see this and they're gonna believe that this is a lie. Fuck no. How? 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 A simple research. Simple research would have given you confirmation that these things happen. Looking at reports of drug and gang activity, shootings, 911 calls, what the community street was, you could have done that. I would have thought that would have happened before people would have not believed it. That's interesting to me. That's sad. That's sad. This is the reality that we live in, people. Like, this is the reality that we live in. These young people are killing each other because they have no sense of self. That they feel like because another person is jealous of them, because another person has better shoes on than them, because another person is doing this and it's disrespectful the way that person talks to them or doesn't deal with them or doesn't accept them. They feel vindicated after they kill each other. And they know that the system of black people will support them because they're not going to tell. This is us. This is our reality, and we need to just do better. Like,
This is what I just got on. Snow on the Bluff is a 2012 American found footage style drama film directed by Damon Russell. It stars Curtis Snow, a real life Atlanta robbery boy and drug dealing, playing a fictional version of himself as he gets into various dangerous criminal situations. That's why I said this shit can't be real. He recorded his crimes.
so the if
Well,
you
well,
look
that
at how it if you look at how it's recorded, right? Look at the part that is not the
Well,
poor.
it said he's playing a fictional character of himself, a fictional version of
Yeah.
himself. So
So
that
if
means
you
it's
make
fake.
okay, so let me just level with you just for a second. If if I made a recording of a drug deal, right? And I'm a DEA agent and I go in and I made this recording, but everybody else around me were involved in this drug deal. And then I put that out and I called that a fictional account so that I could protect not only my undercover identity, but also so I could protect my sense of self. Because you know what happens when black people have gotten off from crimes? What do you think? What do you call it? You call them a snitch. You don't deal with them anymore. You can't deal criminally with that person anymore because obviously they have to be an informant, right? So, how would the government, you guys have so many theories, how would the government cover that up?
I didn't say they covered it up. I said it's fake. So there's nothing to cover up because it was fake.
Anytime you cover it up, you would call it fake, but you would still produce it.
So you're saying he's an informant.
I'm not saying anything.
I,
What I'm saying is you can tell what's reality and what's not. And I think that people have seen enough movies to know what's
well,
real.
I've been in the streets enough to know niggas is not that dumb to 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 record their crimes like that, especially shooting up a nigga's house.
Okay. Snow on the
And
bluff.
you say so why didn't the director turn that over? And then they said it was a director. He didn't even direct the shit. It's claimed it's home movies, but it was directed by somebody else.
That's what I'm
Shit's
telling
fake.
you. So you gotta understand if it is directed by somebody else, find me that director. Pull that director up. What other movies have they directed?
Hold on, let me find this guy's name again.
Yeah.
This director, what is his name? Damon Russell. Let me look him up.
We're talking about Snow on the Bluff.
Web search. Damon Russell is a producer and director of television series and film. He was inducted Motion Pictures, Arts and Scientists.
Mm-hmm.
Filmography. Let's see. 2005, he did some on MTV. 2007, Flipped His House. 2007 through 9, The First 48. 2011, Snow on the Bluff. 2012, Oscar-winning short film Curfew. 2014, Before I Disappear.
So
He
why
put
do you
in work.
no? Why do you think it's just before this film that you start seeing a history? I'm going to teach you guys how to do your history taking when you see that your government is actually, or if you suspect your government is covering things up. I'm just teaching basic research methods.
It was a 6 year difference
Find that
from the
person.
he produced in 2005, 2007, 2007 to 2009, and then he took a hiatus for a year or two, and then he came back with Snow on the Bluff.
So how is it possible that he would have taken this hiatus? And how is it possible that if this person is
He
responsible,
was tired from working.
how?
He
MTV
took a
has been around for a long time.
he took a vacation. I'm saying he was working on several shows from 2005 to 2009, and maybe he was looking for a new job at the end
Okay.
of 2009, or he took a vacation.
Do you really believe that?
I'm just saying, you saying, why would he stop? People like you, sometimes you don't always have acting work or producing work. Sometimes you got to go find a new job.
Okay. If you believe that, if that sit with you, if you really believe that, then I'm not here to convince you.
Now you just asked, why would he? I gave a reason why he would be gone for a year.
Okay.
I don't say
So
it's not. I don't know if it's right or not, but that's a reason that he could have been
it's
gone
not.
for a year.
It doesn't make sense. Any person that is in film or production or directing, if you look at Tyler Perry and his come up, that's a real person that you could look at his come up. Ask yourself how many breaks you saw him take.
But that's because he was running his own empire. Tyler Perry wasn't working at MTV and all these places. This other guy was working for other people. Tyler Perry was building his own brand, so of course he gonna work
Tyler
nonstop.
Perry comes from very
He's
humble.
taking a break lately because he ain't been producing shit.
He's made his money already. He's reached his goal.
So that's what this guy could have done for 6 years. He could have made his money and
Okay,
said, you know
so
what, I'm
now
gonna chill for a minute.
okay, so good. So now go look up his net worth and look up Tyler Perry's.
Well, again, they're totally different because Tyler Perry owns his shit. He owns every show he's put out. He
How?
owns all his plays. He owns all
How?
because he chose to be independent.
Tyler Perry didn't come from independent.
But he chose to be independent.
He
However,
didn't,
he got his
he didn't
start. He
choose.
said, you know what? I want to be independent.
He didn't choose to be independent. The industry forced him to be. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying real life
How
facts.
could
People who come from
the
the type of beginnings that you're talking about, this person would have come from. I'm only helping you draw the congruence. People who come from the background of the type of background that has been painted for this person look a certain way.
how
And
was Tyler Perry forced to be independent because he took his play to a mainstream person and they said no? Well, that's how a lot of people get started independently then. They try to sell their movie to the big networks. They say no. They say, you know what, I'm a producer independently.
yeah.
That's typically how it goes. So that's not anything special to Tyler Perry. If that is how he got his start, because ain't that what Lee Daniels did? Lee
Yeah.
Daniels had to go to a damn
I'm glad
dash.
you continuing to find name other examples. So all of these people who get their start and they go independent, Tiffany Haddish, looking at their background. You didn't look at this dude's background yet. Look at his background. That's what I'm saying. Ask the questions that will lead you to the answer. What is different about this person? If this person is a director and all of a sudden came up with all of this stuff that seems to be so real, right? Then
None
what
of it seemed real to me. The
what
only thing
did he
he's
say?
done that's real is First 48.
Right. If he's come up with that, if that's what he did.
Well, he produced the show. I don't think he came up with it, but that's the only thing that I real know because they're with real police detectives at real crime scenes and shit. But other than that, everything else he's produced has been fake as hell.
So ask yourself what aligns with verse 48.
Um, are you gonna say snow on the bluff?
No, I'm talking about the behavior. I'm only talking about the content. The behavior of the people that he is directing to do whatever it is that he's directing them to do. What is his role in First 48?
To record, I guess. I don't. He can't tell the police how to do their job. He can just have
Exactly.
them how
Exactly.
to look best on camera, but he can't tell them how to go about their
He can't
investigation.
even
He's not
tell
a
them
police
how
officer.
he can't even tell them how to look best on camera. Why? Because he's only observing what's there in front of him. The realities. That's it. What makes it legal for him to put First 48 out? What makes somebody want to back him?
The television networks,
Why would the televisions back him?
money. People want to see it.
Okay, so people want to see it. If I am trying to put something out that people want to see, and the thing that I'm trying to put out has graphic content, not only graphic content, but also content that could implicate serious crimes that happen against people in general, right? What's a way for me to get around that?
Not recorded.
But this is what I
I'm
got.
not gonna. I'm
Somebody
not
came
gonna
to
answer,
me with this. I stumbled upon this. How am I going to continue to put this stuff out? You
Dr. Jeffrey. You're not gonna get me to answer that question, ma'am. I'm
I'm
not
just
gonna do it.
saying.
I'm pulling the rush. I'm pulling the rush. I'm not gonna answer.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So I think sometimes
Very interesting.
sometimes you have to ask difficult questions. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you anything that can't be told to you. I'm just saying you should do your research and then ask yourself, does does this look like something that would have happened in a person that was really pursuing this particular type of career? All I'm asking you
So,
guys is to do the work. That's it.
so is this an official Dr. J conspiracy?
No, I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. I'm not saying anything is a conspiracy. I'm saying
We are going to revisit Snow on the Bluff on my channel.
I'm saying
We
revisit.
might watch it. We might watch it just cause.
You should, and you. I think you have a couple of people on there that really like doing their research, and I think that you'd be interested. I mean, you will be intrigued as to what they come up with, and you probably will learn a couple of things. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But you guys, I gotta go. I got a 3:15 and it's 3:05. It's been great. Shout out to the chat. You guys have definitely explored this conversation around accountability at its capacity. I do want you guys to continue to have a conversation about substance use and how it applies to the degradation of our culture. I want you guys to start asking yourselves the difficult questions as well about some of the things that we choose to entertain ourselves with as Black people, and ask ourselves, why do we choose these things? Like, what system is in place that really is against us? What belief system do you hold? Step into your truth and look at some of these things that shape the way you see the world around you and you see yourself in it. So I think that oftentimes when we do struggle with coming into our truths, when we struggle with, accepting what is, it's typically because we're trying to go against another thing that, for us, it's quite difficult for us to accept. So do the introspective work. You know, my heart definitely goes out to the family of Keisha Coles, especially her sister that still hasn't found her father. That's a very, very common issue as well in the Black community. And we don't necessarily give light of how difficult that can be for a person trying to come into contact with a secure sense of self based on where they come from. I think everybody deserves to at least know these things and know who they're connected to instead of making assumptions. And on that particular show, she had two brothers or two cousins trying to figure out if they were the daddy just because the girl looked like him. We've got to do better. We have got to,
That was Frankie.
yeah, Frankie, the
That was
mom.
all I'm saying. That was all a product of Frankie's drug addiction.
Yeah, but substance use culture looks like that. That's the reality. Thank you. So if we have these mindsets that perpetuate these cycles of behaviors, and we accept that substance abuse is part, or substance use is a part of our culture, we typically find ourselves abusing those same said substances. Our people in our lives end up dead. Nobody has ever even explored the intricacies of Whitney Houston's death. Nobody.
Nope. It seems like the typical entertainer overdose.
Yeah, it does. It does until you look at the fact that her daughter died and then her daughter's
Whole family.
boyfriend got
The adopted her boyfriend which was the kid that they adopted or whatever. All three of
yeah,
them died the same way.
yeah. So nobody's asked questions about that or why that is, how it is.
We need to ask how Bobby Brown outlived everybody, and he was supposed to be the worst drug addict of them all. So they were apparently lying on Bobby, or he had a better grasp on his situation than everyone else.
All I'm gonna say is start asking the difficult questions.
Oh, Doc, it sounds like a conspiracy, Doc. Are you about to say something about Bobby?
I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is we got to ask difficult questions about the things that help perpetuate the cycles of negativity and lack of productivity in our culture. And we've got to stop allowing people to tell us that we are lesser than what we are so that we can step into and position ourselves into greater capacities of being and we can do things that lead to positive outcomes and elevation of our culture. So if we don't want to do that, if we want to stay stuck in the mindset that we need to be in quarrel against one another and continue to argue against one another and vacate belief systems that will allow us to step into places of procreation in a healthy way for our culture, fine, do that. But don't be one of the people that can go out into the culture and go out on these streets and talk about Black Lives Matter. Don't be a person that's a hypocrite because I'm here to call you out. Because at the end of the day, if it mattered to you, then you'd be doing more. So that's all I got, you guys. I will see you guys later. I gotta go.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me.
Later days, Trey. Go over there and check out Toxic Masculinity. He got some very interesting things over there. Even though he's toxic and broken, he's working on it. He'll be fixed one day.
I am not broken, ma'am.
You know, I'm just saying, call a thing a thing. Later days.
Bye.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.